Then I went to Douluo. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276 Return to the Clan. 3 minutes later. The fourth elder walked back to the second elder in a dejected manner, unable to raise his head. Tang Liu had just retracted his 7 blue-black spirit rings, smiled and looked at him, then said, "How is it, fourth elder? Am I strong enough to please you?" The fourth elder did not want to talk. Tang Liu was surprised. "No way, fourth elder, do you want to deny your debt?" The fourth elder said angrily, "Defend your debt. I have said what I want to say, and I cannot go back on my word. I have lost, and I cannot deny it." Tang Liu smiled and said, "Then I wonder if I am qualified to return to my ancestral home." The fourth elder hesitated for a moment and looked at the second elder beside him. Tang Liu's eyes widened immediately. "Fourth elder, are you really going to break your promise?" The fourth elder looked at him and said bluntly, "Boy, I agree with you returning to your ancestral clan. But this is not something I can decide on my own. It depends on the opinions of the sect master and the other elders." Tang Liu glanced at him, then shook his head and said, "If I had known this, I would definitely challenge the sect master. If I win, wouldn't I be the next sect master? In this case, whether you agree or not is not that important, right?" As soon as he finished speaking, all the disciples of the Haoshan sect around him were in an uproar, looking at Tang Liu as if he were a fool. Tang Hao himself remained silent. The fifth elder standing on the other side of the second elder snorted coldly, "Let's not talk about whether you can defeat the sect master, let alone, do you think that to become the sect master of my Haoshan sect, you only need to defeat the previous sect master?" Tang Liu was very interested. "Then tell me, what are the conditions for becoming the sect master of Haoshan sect?" This time, the person who answered him became the second elder. The second elder said in a light tone, "In addition to the sect master recognizing you as the successor, you must also have enough ability to make us, the elders, obey you." Tang Liu's expression became a little strange. "That's all." The second elder still said indifferently, "That's all." Tang Liu confirmed again, "Do you keep your word?" The second elder frowned. "The selection of the sect master has always been like this." Tang Liu's face was filled with a smile. "Then I wonder if this one is qualified to make you all obey me." A small black hammer appeared in his hand at some point. It looked like it was made of black jade. After seeing the black hammer in Tang Liu's hand, the expressions of the elders present changed at the same time. The second elder asked anxiously, "How did you get this thing?" Tang Liu smiled and said, "Whoever had it before gave it to me." The second elder's voice became a little trembling. You mean he's still alive, right?" Tang Liu's lips curled slightly. "Of course. My great-grandfather is not only still alive, but also in good health. Maybe he's looking for his old lover on the Sea God Island now." The second elder opened his mouth and wanted to say "Don't be rude," but looking at the black hammer in Tang Liu's hand, he couldn't say anything. In the end, he just took the lead to bow to Tang Liu, or to the black hammer in Tang Liu's hand. The other elders followed his action and bowed down. After all the elders stood up, the second elder said, "From now on, all the elders of the Haoshan sect will obey your orders unconditionally." Tang Hao, who had been standing aside and was silent from beginning to end, finally smiled a little after hearing the second elder's words. He then announced loudly, "From now on, this sect master has appointed Tang Liu, the third-generation disciple of our clan, as the next successor to the position of the Haoshan sect leader." For a long time, no one spoke. Until Tang San and the seventh elder who went to the competition came back. Tang San looked at the silent people of the Haoshan sect, and then asked Tang Liu, "What's wrong?" Tang Liu took back the small black hammer in his hand, turned to look at him, and smiled as usual and said, "Nothing." Tang San looked at him in confusion, and finally nodded gently. The ceremony of recognizing Tang San and Tang Liu's ancestor was held on the third day after they came to the Haoshan sect. On this day, the two of them were taken by Tang Hao to the tomb of the previous sect master, that is, their grandfather, to worship and perform the ceremony of recognizing Tang San and Tang Liu's ancestor. When they began to worship the previous leader of the Haoshan sect, several elders stood not far away, their eyes fixed on Tang San and Tang Liu in front of the old leader's tomb. The fourth elder looked at Tang Liu and asked the second elder beside him, "Second brother, isn't it too hasty to directly announce Tang Liu as the next successor to the sect master?" The second elder smiled slightly. "Do you know, I heard Tang Hao say yesterday that he was actually a soul saint 5 years ago. The fourth elder opened his mouth wide. 5 years ago? How old is he now? 19, almost 20, right? 5 years ago, wouldn't that be 14 years old? The second elder nodded slightly. Yes, a 14-year-old soul saint. I didn't believe it when I first heard about it. The fourth elder, this is simply impossible. 14 years old, even if you start practicing since the womb, you can't reach this level. Wait, you said he was a soul saint when he was 14, but now 5 years have passed, and he is still a soul saint. Could it be that he used some secret method or took some medicine to quickly improve his cultivation? The second elder glanced at him and said helplessly, "Fourth brother, your imagination is a disease and needs to be cured." The fourth elder, the second elder looked at Tang Liu again, and said, "Do you think that the person he has his eyes on would be someone who would use those unorthodox methods to quickly improve his cultivation? Or do you not believe in his vision?" The fourth elder was speechless for a moment. The second elder continued, "Besides, do you think that it is difficult to accept that the first 3 lives martial soul in the world has reached the soul saint level at the age of 14? The fourth elder, if it is true, let alone the soul saint at the age of 14, I can't accept the 3 lives martial soul alone. Isn't it more powerful than the Pope of the Spirit Hall, Bidong, that woman, the second elder, when he enters the realm of title Douluo? Perhaps no one on the Douluo continent will be able to pose a threat to him. By then, our Haoshan sect will be able to become the real #1 on the continent." Perhaps, after seeing all this, he chose to hand over the token to him. Mini theater, Tang Chen, don't think too much. It's purely because my good great-grandson is so cute and so competitive, so of course I give him whatever he wants. It's just a pity that he had grown up when I met him. Wouldn't it be even more wonderful if I met a good great-grandson when he was a child? So Zixi, when will we have such a cute child? Poseidon, otherwise you better die. You are definitely not the Tang Chen I know. Jin Dao Liu, yes, so Zixi, come to my Douluo hall, let's sweep the stairs together. Poseidon, you should get out too. Tang Chen, old Jin Dao Liu, get out. Jin Dao Liu, bah. Trash Tang Chen, I found that in Douluo 1 and Douluo 2, most of the slightly awesome characters have a love triangle, such as Tang Chen, Poseidon, Jin Dao Liu, Tang Hao, A Yin, Tang Hao, Flanders, Liu Erlong Master, B Bidong in Douluo 1, such as Moon, Yi Zai, Shui Long Zai Oyo, K Meyer, Yan Shaos, Xian Liner, Yan Shaos, Xian Liner, Jin Duaruo, Bingdi, Zudi, Xian Meng. Of course, the protagonists are not to be mentioned, that is multiple single arrows plus a double arrow. As for Douluo 3 and Douluo 4, I haven't finished watching them, so I'm not sure. In addition, I found that in the original work, Tang Yu seemed to like Tang Hao. Huh? Chapter 277 Reunion. Then, the second elder looked at Tang San again, and then asked the seventh elder, "Seventh brother, you and him have met, what do you think of him?" The seventh elder looked at Tang San, and then said, "Twin martial souls, close to the cultivation of the Soul Emperor at the age of 20, in the future he will definitely be no weaker than the Spirit Hall Pope Bidong. In fact, he will be stronger." The second elder nodded, "Yes, after all, Bidong has 2 beast martial souls, and they are the same kind of beast martial souls." The seventh elder suddenly said, "I don't know, second brother, who do you think has stronger talent between Tang San and Tang Liu?" The second elder opened his mouth and was about to say something, but suddenly froze. "Yes, who is stronger?" Shrek Academy. Since winning the championship of the All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition, Shrek Academy has obtained countless students. In addition, with the support of the Xiandao royal family and the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile sect, it has become a very famous Advanced Soul Master Academy in the entire Xiandao Empire and even the entire continent. Moreover, the current Shrek Academy no longer only owns the land of the original Blue Tyrant Academy. After the expansion with the royal family's funding, the scale of Shrek Academy is comparable to that of the Xiandao Royal Academy, and even surpasses it in some aspects. There is no comparison between the small village in Soto City and now. Because it was the champion of the previous All-Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy Elite Competition, countless students come to apply for the exam every year, but even so, Shrek Academy still follows the previous enrollment system. That is, only monsters are recruited, not ordinary people. According to this training method, Shrek Academy can train a large number of amazing soul masters every year, adding a lot of excellent soul masters to the Xiandao Empire. Of course, there is still no top genius like the Shrek 7 Devils back then. There is no shadow of Tang Liu. Today is just an ordinary day for Shrek. There is no enrollment, no competition or anything like that. But today is indeed a special day for Shrek. Even if Shrek Academy itself doesn't know it yet. A young man and woman appeared in front of the main gate of Shrek Academy, which had become extremely glorious. Students were even specially dispatched to guard both sides of the gate. The young man and woman would definitely be the focus of attention in the crowd under normal circumstances. Because one was tall and handsome, and the other was cold and charming. They both looked to be around 20 years old. In short, they were still very young. They looked at the gate not far away, looked at the huge words Shrek Academy on it, and then sighed silently. These two people were naturally Liu and Zhu Xiuqing, who came from Douluo. Liu said, "It's been 5 years. I didn't expect the school to have such a big change." Zhu Xiuqing nodded. "I don't know how everyone is doing now." The two walked forward while communicating. When they were about to reach the main gate, they suddenly heard a voice coming. "Boss Xiuqing, you are here too." The two looked over and found a fat man who was as tall as he was wide. Liu's expression became a little surprised. "Fatty." He went over and gave the fat man who was walking over, that is, Ma Hongjin, a big bear hug. "Ouch, ouch, boss be gentle." Ma Hongjin was hugged in pain and immediately cried out. Liu immediately laughed and scolded him. "I didn't expect that after so long, Fatty, you are still so lewd." Ma Hongjin laughed strangely. There is no way, you two are in pairs, with families, unlike me, who has always been alone. Why, Fatty, you have been traveling on the mainland for so long, and you haven't found a partner? Then you are really miserable." At this time, a crisp voice with a little smile came over. Several people turned their heads and looked over, and then saw another stunning beauty. Zhu Xiuqing ran over. Wrong. Ning Rongrong hugged her with a smile. Ha. Xiuqing is still so well developed. I really envy you. If I can be half as good as you, I will be very satisfied. As she said this, she looked down at herself and smacked her lips with regret. Zhu Xiuqing glared at her with a red face. Liu and Ma Hongjin also came over at this time, looking at Ning Rongrong and said, "Rongrong, why are you the only one here? Where's Xiao?" Ning Rongrong's expression was obviously stiff, and her mood became a little depressed. She lowered her head slightly, and just as she opened her mouth to say something, she heard a voice coming over. "Are you looking for me?" Ning Rongrong raised her head suddenly and looked in the direction of the voice. The rest of the people did the same. Then, they saw two figures gradually walking out of the gate of Shrek Academy. One of them had a pair of passionate peach blossom eyes and an extremely handsome face. The other one had long dark blue hair, eyes of the same color, and a handsome face with an elegant temperament, just like a gentleman. Ning Rongrong's eyes immediately fell on the young man with peach blossom eyes, and then she let go of Zhu Xiuqing and ran towards him. Xiao, the young man, Oscar, caught Ning Rongrong who was running over, and then comforted her. "I'm back, don't cry." Ning Rongrong finally stopped crying. At this time, the other three also came over, first greeted Oscar, and then looked at the blue-haired young man next to Oscar with puzzled faces. Liu asked puzzledly, "Xiao, who is this?" The blue-haired young man looked at them with a wry smile on his face and said nothing. Oscar then laughed and said, "I knew you wouldn't recognize me, boss Dai. To be honest, I was shocked when I saw you at first." Ma Hongjin said to him, "Stop talking nonsense, tell me who this is." Oscar laughed twice and said, "This is Xiao-san. How come you didn't recognize her? Didn't you see Xiao-san's 24 Bridges Moonlight Night and Rue 100 treasure bag?" Hearing what he said, everyone cast their surprised eyes on the blue-haired young man next to Oscar, and then saw the 24 Bridges Moonlight Night and Rue 100 treasure bag on the blue-haired young man's waist. Liu couldn't believe it. "Are you really Xiao-san?" The blue-haired young man, that is, Tang San, nodded helplessly and replied, "Yes, boss Dai, I am Tang San." Ning Rongrong covered her mouth in surprise. "But how could you change so much?" She was still a little skeptical. "Are you really the third brother?" Tang San nodded helplessly. "Absolutely genuine." That's it for today. In addition. Really, thank you very much. Chapter 278 Stunning. P.S. The author doesn't remember the plot later. I will update the original novel and update it tomorrow. Looking at the people who still couldn't believe it, Tang San held his forehead helplessly, and then said, I came to see the teacher once before, and he knows my situation. If you don't believe it, we will go to find the teacher later. The few people reluctantly believed it, and then walked into Shrek Academy together. Along the way, the few people also asked Tang San a lot of questions that only the 7 monsters knew the answers to, and Tang San answered them one by one, so the few people basically believed that he was Tang San himself. Now, they just need to confirm with the master again. Under the leadership of Tang San and Oscar, Liu and the other 4 finally came to the teaching office building inside Shrek Academy and went directly to the dean's office. Originally, they were going to go directly to the master, but Liu changed his mind halfway and prepared to go directly to Flanders, and then let Tang San go to the master, and finally meet in the dean's office. Liu was a little excited. He raised his hand and knocked on the door of the dean's office, and heard the familiar voice coming from inside, saying come in. He then pushed open the door of the dean's office. At first glance, he saw Flanders sitting comfortably behind his desk. He opened his mouth and was about to say something, and then he saw a figure sitting opposite Flanders with his back to them. The figure was wearing a blue shirt, and the not-so-broad back seemed a little thin to him, but it looked extremely well-proportioned, which was a visual enjoyment. The short blue-black hair looked a little fluffy, but very smooth. When Flanders said happily, "Little monsters, you are all back," the figure also turned his head slowly. He put one hand on his chin, and the beautiful blue-black eyes looked over first. Then, it was the high nose bridge and beautiful lips. He just turned his side face first. But this side face was already so beautiful that it was thrilling. Then, he turned around completely, revealing his full face. There was no surprise in those blue-black eyes, only joy. When they were watching them quietly, it was like a soft and warm breeze blowing by. It was at this time that Liu discovered that Tang San's current appearance had many similarities with the man in front of him. But Tang San was the kind of handsome man with a round and natural temperament. And the man in front of him was a kind of handsomeness that was like a dream, as if it was illusory. Yes, he was not only handsome, but also beautiful. So handsome that it seemed unreal. Then, Liu heard him speak. "Brother Bai, are you here?" There was only one person who would call him that. Undoubtedly, the man in front of him was Tang Liu. Liu looked at him with surprise and said, "Liu, I didn't expect you to be so handsome when you grow up." Tang Liu smiled. "Hey, is this all you care about? Why don't you tell me, have you finished all the things I told you to do?" Liu was slightly stunned, and then he remembered that Tang Liu was his future national teacher, so he smiled and said, "Of course, it has been completed long ago." Then he jokingly said, "Fortunately, you have fulfilled your mission." Tang Liu laughed and said, "Brother Bai, you are the prince." At this time, other people also walked into the dean's office one after another. And they all noticed Tang Liu, and then they were amazed by his unreal handsomeness. Tang Liu also stood up at this time. Ma Hongjin laughed strangely and said, "Liu, long time no see, come, give me a hug." Liu smiled and kicked him. "Get away, fat man." Ningrongrong and Zhu Zhuking stood in front of Tang Liu, and then raised their heads slightly and looked at him. Ningrongrong said jealously, "Liu, I didn't expect you to be more beautiful than me." Zhu Zhuking also smiled. "You've finally grown taller, huh?" Tang Liu smiled slightly and said, "After all, you're already 20. It would be unreasonable if you don't grow taller." Ningrongrong then smiled and said, "That's right. I always thought you were only 11 or 12 years old, haha." Oscar also came over and smiled. "Yeah, Liu, now you're not only taller, but also more beautiful than me. Tisk tisk, when I think about it, it seems a little unfair. After all, you are the first three-life martial spirit in the history of our Douluo continent." When Oscar mentioned this, the others also reacted. Ningrongrong glared at Tang Liu lightly, then said, "That's right, if Xiao hadn't mentioned it, I would have almost forgotten it. Tell me, why didn't you tell us that you also had a clear sky hammer spirit?" Tang Liu glared at Oscar first and threatened him, "You're the only one who keeps talking all day. Believe it or not, I can heal the wound on your face." Oscar immediately admitted his mistake and laughed. "Okay, I was wrong. I should have mentioned this." Tang Liu then retracted his gaze and looked at Ningrongrong again, then decisively passed the buck and said with a smile, "Master didn't let me tell you." Ningrongrong was a little skeptical. Really? Tang Liu was about to nod when he heard a voice coming from outside again. "Liu, tell me honestly, when did I ever tell you not to tell them that you still had the clear sky hammer spirit?" Everyone turned their heads and saw Master Liu Erlong and Tang San behind them. Tang Liu argued, "Didn't you say that my Haolan magic was my second martial soul? In that case, I naturally thought that you wanted me to hide my real second martial soul, the Clear Sky Hammer." The master smiled and said, Okay, it's all my fault, okay." Then Liu Erlong came up, gave Tang Liu a hug, and then smiled and said, "I haven't seen you for 5 years, come and show your aunt a good look." Tang Liu smiled and said to her, "How is it, aunt? Are you and uncle planning to give birth to a cousin for me?" Liu Erlong couldn't help laughing. "How can it be so fast? And Ziyang and I haven't even gotten married yet." Dai Mubei suddenly interrupted, looked at Liu Erlong, then looked at the master, and smiled and said, "So, Teacher Erlong, you are going to marry the master?" Liu Erlong's cheeks were stained with a little blush, and she didn't say anything, but she didn't nod either. Then the master coughed lightly, and then said, "Yes, your Teacher Erlong and I are about to get married." When this was said, several people felt a little surprised, but then there was a burst of surprise. Tang San said first, "That's great. Teacher, where are you going to hold the wedding?" Ning Rongrong immediately said, "Why don't you come to our Seven Treasures glazed tile sect? I can ask Dad to personally preside over the wedding for Master and Teacher Erlong." Dai Mubei was not to be outdone. "Our Xingluo Empire is also okay. Small theater, yes, he is not only handsome, but also beautiful. A kind of unreal handsomeness. A kind of handsomeness that transcends gender." In short, as early as when he saw that stunning profile, Dai Mubei couldn't help but fall into a daze. Moreover, now that whole face is presented in front of him without reservation. It really is a divine face that can make people completely sink at a glance. 5 years ago, he hadn't grown up yet, but he could already make people feel moved without realizing it. Now, he can directly touch your heartstrings when you are unprepared. Dai Mubei, dumbfounded. Golden Canary Tang Liu, confused. "Golden what?" Dai Mubei, suddenly shy. "No, nothing. It's just, my future national teacher, you, what do you think of me?" Tang Liu, "Huh?" Tang Liu sighed, "Brother Bai, it's impossible between us. First of all, you definitely can't get past my dad." Dai Mubei, the tough guy is crying. Chapter 279 Star Hunting Soul. It doesn't matter whether there's a wedding or not. Anyway, Tang San briefly talked about his experiences in recent years and explained the changes in his appearance. Then, Oscar told everyone how he had been through the past 5 years. In fact, he couldn't get back to Shrek Academy so quickly. Just 1 day ago, he happened to get his 6th soul ring from a 20,000-year-old mirror shadow beast in a forest on the Arctic ice field. In addition, he also got a soul bone from the mirror shadow beast. A head soul bone second only to the torso bone. However, he was in a soul master team at the time, and the mirror shadow beast was also hunted by them together. It was impossible to monopolize the soul bone. Therefore, he and the only soul saint in that team who could be trusted by him killed the other members of that soul master team. However, although the companion with him was a soul saint, he was still no match for 4 hands. In addition, he was only a food-type soul master. Even though he had reached the Soul Emperor level and even obtained a 6th soul skill that could copy other people's abilities, they still encountered some trouble. But at that time, Tang San and Tang Liu suddenly appeared and helped them deal with those people in an instant. After that, after he absorbed the soul bone, they came to Shrek Academy together. This is also the reason why Oscar appeared in Shrek Academy with Tang San. To be honest, when Oscar saw Tang San's current appearance for the first time, he was also unbelievable for a long time. However, Tang Liu beside Tang San was the best proof of Tang San's identity. So although it was unbelievable, Oscar did not doubt it anymore. In addition, when Tang San and Tang Liu saw Oscar again, he had an old scar on his face. But Tang Liu healed the scar with a virtual spirit, and then he was hugged by Oscar and cried for a long time. But at least, 7 of the 8 members of the Shrek Monster Group have returned to Shrek Academy. As for Xiao Wu, Tang San also plans to go to the Xingdao Great Forest to find her tomorrow, and get his 6th spirit ring. For this reason, the 7 people also made a 5-year agreement again, so that the 8 members of the Shrek Monster Group and Mu Jing, who once participated in the All-Continent Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite competition with them, can be completely reunited. Speaking of Mu Jing, the others naturally asked Tang Liu if he knew her whereabouts. Tang Liu just said that Mu Jing was busy and was not on the Xiandao Empire. But he did not elaborate on what Mu Jing was doing. Among the few people, Dai Mubei might be the only one who knew more. After a simple gathering, Liu Erlong proposed that the 7 people and the academy teachers have a performance-like competition, so that the Shrek students can open their horizons and stimulate their practice. Flanders agreed immediately, and then stood on the competition field with Hao Wuji, looking at the Shrek 6 monsters who had eliminated Tang Liu, and felt a little sad. In the end, the duration of this match was not long, at most 10 minutes. After the Shrek 6 devils eliminated Zhao Wuji, they pretended to fight at tie with Flanders to maintain his face as the dean. Then, after a night of rest in Shrek Academy, Tang San set out for the starred out Great Forest. Tang Liu did not choose to go with him, because if he remembered correctly, the Spirit Hall had attacked the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex sect in the recent period. Because the Spirit Hall attacked suddenly, the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex sect suffered heavy losses. The situation of the 7 Treasures Glazed Tile sect was relatively better because they had the hidden weapons provided by Tang San. But the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex sect was directly destroyed. Although Tang Liu promised Jin Ringsu that he would not tell on her. But he didn't say he wouldn't stop it, right? Moreover, the reason why the Spirit Hall secretly launched this war against the 7 Treasures Glazed sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus sect was because they wanted to re-rank the 7 major sects, so as to control more Soul Masters' power in their own hands. However, reshuffling is fine. But Ishaoshin sect must be ranked first. The night fell silently. In addition to the disciples who patrolled at night, some unidentified people also sneaked into the 7 Treasures Glazed sect without anyone noticing. When some of them attacked the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, the other part killed them all before they succeeded. Of course, sometimes there will be some troubles, such as those who sneak attack the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect failed to successfully sneak attack those who sneak attack the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, and were discovered in advance by those who sneak attack the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, so those who sneak attack the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect turned around and sneak attack those who sneak attack them. At this time, a blue light will be shot at those who sneak attack the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, killing them with one blow. Regardless of success or failure, those who attack the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect would disappear in a blue light, and then be sent to another place to continue to attack those who attack the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. In this way, the wireless nesting dolls continued until those who attacked the disciples of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect finally realized that something was wrong and began to retreat. Afterwards, Ning Fengzi, the leader of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, began to count the casualties, and was quite surprised to find that the casualties of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect were very small, far within the acceptable range. But the group of people who attacked their 7 Treasures Glazed sect did not have the same emotion as him. Instead, they were shocked and angry. Fortunately, they attacked not only the 7 Treasures Glazed sect at the same time, but also a Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family. Although the 7 Treasures Glazed sect suffered heavy losses, the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex sect was smooth sailing, which finally made them feel a little more balanced, and they could be scolded less by the Pope. At the same time as this raid, a soul hunting operation was also underway in the starred out Great Forest. Tang San also met his former opponent in the All-Continent Senior Academy Soul Master Elite Competition, an acquaintance in the Slaughter City, and his partner in the Hull Road, Hulina, in this soul hunting team. However, no one here could recognize that he was Tang San. But they knew from Hulina that his name was Tang Yin. Tang San actually broke in unintentionally, but because he accidentally heard that their soul hunting operation was related to Xia Wu, he relied on Hulina to blend in. In addition to Hulina, Tang San also met many acquaintances in this soul hunting team, first of all, Zhu Douluo and Ghost Douluo, as well as the golden generation of the former Spirit Hall, Ziyu and Yan. Chapter 282 Martial Soul Fusion Technique. Led by Zhu Douluo and Ghost Douluo, they went deep into the Star Forest, passed through the core area, and came to the Great Dangerous Land in the center of the Star Forest. This was the first time Tang San saw the true appearance of this famous Great Dangerous Land. Unlike the hell on earth that the Soul Masters had passed down, this Great Dangerous Land was actually a breathtakingly beautiful lake. At the edge of the lake, Tang San saw a woman with long black hair in a white dress. Although the woman had her back to them, At a glance, it was certain that the woman had a beautiful face. However, except for Tang San, the soul hunting team had no mood to appreciate the beautiful scenery in front of them. Because, right next to the woman, a dark figure like a small hill sat quietly, silently watching them. Titan Giant Ape. Douluo, Ghost Douluo, and several Soul Douluos and Soul Saints in the team all stood in formation in an instant, looking at the huge Titan Giant Ape vigilantly. Then, a gentle voice came at this time. Haven't you been looking for me for a long time? Now that you've found me, why don't you dare come over? Tang San just stared at Xiao Wu's back in a daze. Apart from that, he had no other reaction. Then, Douluo and Ghost Douluo split up and rushed towards Xiao Wu and the Titan Giant Ape by the lake. Although the Titan Giant Ape is a top-level 100,000-year soul beast and its strength is comparable to that of a fierce beast, Ghost Douluo is also a title Douluo at level 95. It is absolutely no problem for him to entangle the Titan Giant Ape in a short period of time. As long as he entangles the Titan Giant Ape, Xiao Wu, who is still very weak now, will definitely not be able to deal with Douluo, who is also a title Douluo at level 95. However, when Douluo was about to approach Xiao Wu, a huge green bull head emerged from under the beautiful lake, and its lantern-like eyes stared at Douluo. The next moment, Douluo, who was originally moving forward at a rapid speed, flew backwards rapidly. Then, a burst of black light burst out from the Titan Giant Ape. In this black light, the ground was cracked inch by inch. Even Ghost Douluo, who was so fast that only a shadow remained, had to slow down in this black light. Then, Titan Giant Ape seized the opportunity and slapped the slowed Ghost Douluo away with a slap. Seeing that the situation was not right, Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo immediately joined together and held hands. A total of 18 soul rings surrounded the two people, and then a layer of magnificent light spread out with the two people as the center, and then enveloped Titan Giant Ape and Sky Blue Bull Python. The 200,000-year soul beasts were immediately unable to move. Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo's martial soul fusion skills, the two polar static fields. The effect of the martial soul fusion skills of the two title Douluos is undoubtedly extremely terrifying. Even two top-level 100,000-year soul beasts can only be restricted. Of course, if the Sky Blue Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape really enter the level of 200,000-year beasts, the result may be different. Then, Douluo's voice came over, asking everyone to quickly capture Xiao Wu. He and Ghost Douluo could not restrain the Azure Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape for too long. So, all the people who came from the Spirit Hall this time rushed towards Xiao Wu at the same time. Seeing the Azure Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape who could not move, Xiao Wu's expression changed drastically. She looked at the Spirit Hall Soul Master rushing towards her, and her expression became a little desperate for a while. She couldn't help but look at the Azure Bull Python and Titan Giant Ape. Coincidentally, they were also looking at her. Their eyes seemed to say, "Go." But Xiao Wu hesitated to move. Then, as if she had made up her mind, she gritted her teeth and took a step forward, and then closed her eyes resolutely. At the same time, two lines of clear tears slowly flowed from the corners of her eyes. But the next moment, she opened her eyes again. Because an extremely condensed black light suddenly bloomed outward from this great evil land. Then, a huge black iron hammer appeared above this sky. All the light seemed to be completely absorbed around the black hammer, so there was a bottomless darkness around it. The darkness formed a circle around the huge black hammer. From a distance, it looked like a dark sun suddenly appeared in the sky. However, strangely, everyone could clearly find the huge black hammer in the bottomless darkness. Then, the next moment, the huge black hammer and the black sun seemed to swing gently. At the same time, the martial soul fusion skill of Douluo and Ghost Douluo, the bipolar static field, shattered like a mirror. Douluo and Ghost Douluo vomited blood. The Azure Bull Python and the Titan Giant Ape also broke free from their restraints, and then roared to the sky. Xiao Wu stared blankly at the black sun in the sky, and then watched it suddenly disappear and appear in the starred-out great forest. This time, the huge hammer in the black sun suddenly melted and exploded. It exploded into countless small hammers. Then, the next moment, these small hammers were rapidly ejected, like a rainstorm, carrying unimaginable violent momentum, rushing towards the people of the Spirit Hall. The people of the Spirit Hall were horrified and immediately mobilized their soul power to defend against these rapidly flying hammers. However, their soul power defense did not work at all. because under those small hammers, they were pushed away with their defense. The weaker ones were directly smashed through their soul power defense by the small hammers, and then smashed their sternum, penetrated the lungs, broke the heart, shattered the spine, and finally flew out from the back. The corpses of soul masters immediately appeared in the starred-out great forest. In the end, the only ones who could barely stand were Douluo, Ghost Douluo, Hulina, Ziyu, and Yan. They all looked at the black sun with horror, and then watched the black sun turn into two rays of light, forming two handsome figures. One held a clear sky hammer in his left hand. The other held a clear sky hammer in his right hand. The one with long dark blue hair was Tang San. The one with short blue-black hair was Tang Liu. The black sun, the huge black hammer, and the raindrop-like black hammers later were their second martial soul fusion skills. The martial soul fusion skill of the clear sky hammer and the clear sky hammer. Wherever the Emperor's true spirit appears, one hammer breaks the sky and 10,000 hammers destroy. When this martial soul fusion skill was led by Tang San, its manifestation was the huge clear sky hammer and the dark sun at the beginning. Chapter 281 Titan Ape, Blue Hair. Handsome guy. Sister-in-law. If it was Tang Liu who was in charge, it would become the clear sky hammer that was ejected like raindrops from the dark sun. This martial soul fusion skill superimposed all the characteristics of Tang San and Tang Liu's clear sky hammer. For example, those martial soul hall spirit masters who were blown away. Every clear sky hammer that hit them had the weight of Tang San and Tang Liu's clear sky hammers. Needless to say, Tang San's clear sky hammer weighed 500 kilograms. And Tang Liu's was even more unimaginable. Even though he was now a soul saint, and had the Ice and Fire Dragon King's wings and soul bones attached to gradually strengthen his body. But even so, he still couldn't lift his own clear sky hammer with his physical strength. Why? Because his clear sky hammer was really heavy. How heavy is this Douluo star? How heavy is his clear sky hammer? Naturally, under this weight, no matter how strong your defenses, you will be blown away. Looking at the two handsome young men standing together, Hulina realized something in an instant. She looked at Tang San with her beautiful eyes a little dazed. "You, who are you?" Tang San said in a deep voice. "I am Tang San. I'm sorry that I lied to you before. However, our positions are relative, so there is no such thing as sorry or not." Ghost Douluo gritted his teeth and looked at Tang Liu beside Tang San, and said, "If you are Tang San, then you must be Tang Liu, right?" Tang Liu looked at him and smiled slightly. "Thank you for your kindness, Your Majesty Ghost Douluo. It's been so long, and you can still remember me. But from now on, please call me Master." As soon as he finished speaking, Ghost Douluo had no time to refute. His whole body stiffened, and then he walked towards Tang Liu stiffly and sluggishly, and finally stood behind him. Douluo was horrified. "Old ghost." Then Tang Liu turned to look at him, and smiled and said, "Same to you, sir." Similarly, Douluo's body froze, and he walked towards Tang Liu with a dull look, and then stood behind him. Finally, he looked at Hulina and the other two. Tang Liu didn't say anything more, and with a flash of blue light, the three disappeared from the spot. Then he patted Tang San's shoulder beside him, looked at him meaningfully, and then said, "Then I'll leave first, brother." He seemed to deliberately pronounce the word brother a little heavy. After saying that, his figure also disappeared in a dazzling blue light. However, before teleporting away, he seemed to intentionally or unintentionally look at the Titan giant ape. At the same time, Douluo and Ghost Douluo were teleported away with him. Tang San turned around impatiently and looked at Xia Wu, who had grown into a graceful young lady. But before he could call out her name, he was slapped away by the Titan giant ape who suddenly rushed up. The Titan ape roared, "The one with long blue hair, the one who is handsome. Don't call Xia Wu, call her sister-in-law, Xia Wu, Azure Bull Python." When the Seven Treasures Glazed Tile sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex sect were attacked, Daimyubei and Zhu Xiuqing were first teleported back to the Xingluo Empire by Tang Liu. After all, only in their own territory can they use resources to investigate the details of this incident. Today is the third day since Daimyubei and Zhu Xiuqing returned to the Xingluo Imperial Palace. On this day, Daimyubei came to a secret prison alone, and then met Tang Liu, who had just locked Douluo and Ghost Douluo in a special cell. Then, Tang Liu lit a stick of incense in the cell, letting the smoke from the burning incense linger in the cell, and finally was slowly inhaled into their bodies with the breathing of Douluo and Ghost Douluo. Tang Liu turned to look at Daimyubei. handed him something, and then said, "Add these to the food and water given to them." "It's a bit difficult to control the two-titled Douluo with a Howlin' seal now," Dai Bei asked. "Can't we control it like we control Ming Douluo and Ling Douluo?" Tang Liu smiled and answered him, "Those two are not like Zhu Douluo and Ghost Douluo. They are only level 92 and 93. Compared to Zhu Douluo and Ghost Douluo's level 95, they are naturally easier to control. By the way, how is the thing I asked you to make?" Dai Bei nodded and said, "It's basically completed. It will be put into use in a year at most." Tang Liu was a little surprised. "Is your Xingluo empire so efficient?" Dai Bei said helplessly, "It's been 5 years after all. If it can't be completed, what's the point of the whole country's strength?" Tang Liu reminded him, "Don't put all your energy on making that. Other things are equally important. With those, you will be able to make that faster." Dai Bei said, "Basically, we can finish it so quickly only because we have made most of the other things. But those things really consume resources. Fortunately, they are just some ordinary metals and some not too expensive rare metals, otherwise even we in Xingluo may not be able to afford it." Tang Liu thought about it. "What if we grab all the resources of the Heaven Dao Empire and the Spirit Hall? Can we speed up a little?" Dai Bei smiled, "Don't worry, our national strength is enough." Then he put his arm around Tang Liu's shoulders. "Let's go, let's have a drink." Tang Liu took his hand away and rolled his eyes at him. "It will be very busy recently. Why drink? Are you really going to be a hands-off boss?" Dai Bei smiled. "Who made me the future emperor of Xingluo, and you are my future national teacher?" Tang Liu interrupted him, then took the lead and walked out of the cell. "Come on, since it's almost done, you should send someone to signal Mu Jing and tell her that she can start." Dai Bei smiled and said, Okay, I'll listen to you." He then started to catch up. Tang Liu suddenly turned around and said, "As for drinking, I'll treat you after all these things are done." Dai Bei smiled and said, "Okay. Do you want me to take you to see the land now?" Tang Liu thought about it and found that the time was almost up. He nodded consciously and said, "Sure, then take me to see it. In addition, have you followed the architectural drawings given to you?" Dai Bei, "It has been completed several years ago." "Then let's go now. By the way, is what you said true?" "What?" "It's the thing about our Xingluo royal family changing hands in the future. We become dukes, but in the end we become emperors again." There are 2 more chapters. Chapter 282 Team Member Reunion. Are you worried? There's nothing to worry about. The change of the royal family is a normal thing. Well, I'm actually a little unwilling and a little curious about why. Don't worry, as long as you make that, the throne of Xingluo will always be yours. Wuhan City, Pope's Palace. Bibi Dong listened to her subordinates' reports on the 2 operations, and her fingers rhythmically tapped the armrests of the Pope's chair. When she heard that the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex was exterminated, she nodded slightly. Then, she heard that the subordinate said that all the people who went to the Xingdao Great Forest to participate in the soul hunting operation did not come back, including the 2 elders Zhu and Ji Yui, and the Saint Hulina. Bibi Dong's eyes fixed. She slapped the armrest of the chair heavily, stood up, looked at the kneeling subordinate in front of her, and asked in a cold voice, "Do you know why?" The subordinate trembled. "No, I don't know. According to the information from the people who went to investigate the situation later, there were only corpses there, but the 2 elders Zhu and Ji Yui, as well as the saint, Ziyu and Yan, were all gone." Bibi Dong snorted coldly. "Waste. Why don't you retreat and continue to investigate?" The subordinate hurriedly said, Yes. Then he turned around and left, walking out of the Pope's palace. When the subordinate walked out of the Pope's palace, the coldness and anger in Bibi Dong's expression disappeared. She sat back in the chair, and a strange light flashed in her beautiful eyes. Jin Ringsu was the first to know the news of the failure of the attack on the 7 Treasures Glazed sect. The moment she knew that the operation had failed, she suspected that it was Tang Liu who reported the news in advance, so that the 7 Treasures Glazed sect became alert and made preparations in advance, which led to their failure. But after listening to the report of the action personnel, Jin Ringsu gave up this idea. Because the 7 Treasures Glazed sect was still the same as what they had discovered. On the day when the attack began, most of the 7 Treasures Glazed sect disciples went out to perform tasks, and the 7 Treasures Glazed sect was empty. However, according to the report of the action personnel, for some reason, another force appeared inside the 7 Treasures Glazed sect, which not only helped the 7 Treasures Glazed sect to repel them, but also adopted the same sneak attack method as them. as if they had known they would come. When they tried to catch those unknown counter-sneak attackers, they were extremely surprised to find that the figures of those counter-sneak attackers had disappeared without a trace, as if they had never appeared. When Jin Rongsu listened, she felt that all this was very likely the work of Tang Liu. After all, he had always shown the ability to teleport in groups. She then reacted. Tang Liu only said that he would not tell on her, but he did not say that he would not intervene. Jin Rongsu was angry and felt sorry. Why is such a powerful guy her enemy? Even though the attack on the 7 treasures glazed sect failed, fortunately the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family was successfully destroyed, which was considered a relatively successful outcome. Then, the plan to continue had to be carried out. She thought for a moment, then took out a small porcelain bottle from the storage soul guide. And once again transformed into the Crown Prince of the Heavenly Dao Empire, Zhu King, and walked towards the Imperial Kitchen. Since the attacks on the 7 treasures glazed sect and the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex sect, the Douluo continent seemed to have fallen into a state of calm again. But anyone with a discerning eye knew that this was just a calm before the storm. Under the seemingly calm undercurrent, there was no telling how terrifying the turbulence was. Once this brief calm was broken, perhaps an endless war would follow. After Tang San and Xiao Wu had been in the starred out Great Forest for a month, they returned to Heaven Dao City. After that, Tang San began to rebuild the Tang sect. In order to make this Tang sect in this other world quickly stronger, Tang San planned to complete it by absorbing those small sects or small families. He set his primary target on the 4 major families that were once attached to the Haotian sect. While he was concentrating on gathering the power of the 4 major families, Tang Liu also left Xingluo City and headed towards a city in the northeast of the Xingluo Empire. Then, 2 months later, the Spirit Hall suddenly reported that among the 4 lower sects, except for the Elephant Armor sect, the other 3 sects were all wiped out. As soon as this news was released, the Spirit Master world was in an uproar. It was not long before the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex family, one of the 3 upper sects, was wiped out. Unexpectedly, 3 more sects among the 4 lower sects were wiped out. The Spirit Hall stated that it would do its best to search for the murderer who caused the 3 lower sects to be wiped out. After all, the relationship between the 4 lower sects and the Spirit Hall is the closest, and they are almost affiliated forces of the Spirit Hall. Now that 3 of the 4 sects have been wiped out at once, it would be strange if the Spirit Hall could feel good. Not long after the news of the annihilation of 3 of the 4 lower sects was released, Tang Liu also arrived at his destination and met the 2 team members who were waiting for him in the city. Yi Lingling and Lu Qifeng. After 3 years, they were slightly excited to see each other again. The reason why Yi Lingling and Lu Qifeng were here was because this was where the 9-heart begonia family used to be. It was also the place where Yi Lingling was born. It was also the place where those who later occupied everything in the 9-heart begonia family now settled down. But now, those people have all disappeared from this world. In these 3 years, with the joint efforts of Yi Lingling, Lu Qifeng, and Tang Jin, Yi Lingling's original cold temperament has added some decisive heroic spirit. It seems that they have not had an easy life in the past 3 years, but it is definitely a very good exercise. Tang Liu did not mention anything about her enemies, but just smiled and said, "Congratulations, the assessment is completed." Yi Lingling rarely smiled. "Why don't you check it? Why are you so careless?" Tang Liu's lips curled slightly. "Nothing can be hidden from my eyes." Yi Lingling laughed out loud, and for a long time, she became a little disappointed again and did not speak. Tang Liu knew what she was thinking, but did not take the initiative to speak. Instead, he turned his head and looked at Lu Qifeng, who had grown up a lot, and smiled. "Show me your spirit ring." Lu Qifeng scratched his head and released his martial soul. Then, 6 circles of yellow, purple, black and black spirit rings rose from the bottom of his feet. Tang Liu nodded. "Not bad. It seems that you also know the most special characteristics of your martial soul. It can be considered a pass. But, what level are you now?" Although 3 years have passed, he still seems to be a little shy as before. He said aloud, "Compared with Monsieur, I am far behind. I just broke through the Soul Emperor not long ago. Now I am only 62 levels. Chapter 283 Another Continent. Yi Lingling also looked at Tang Liu at this time, and then asked, "Why didn't you tell me before that his martial soul can devour vitality to increase the age of his soul rings?" Tang Liu chuckled and said, "You know it now, so why did I tell you before?" Yi Lingling rolled his eyes at him. Do you know how long we were confused when we first saw his soul ring change? Tang Liu waved his hand. Okay, let's not talk so much. We should go find Mu Jing. You guys only destroyed one fire leopard sect, but she destroyed the other two by herself. You know, these three sects teamed up to deal with your nine-hearted begonia family. When you meet Mu Jing, you should thank her well. After all, she also avenged you, Mu Jing said helplessly. I know. But don't think I don't know that you sent people from the Haotian sect and the help of the Xingluo Empire to make her successful. Tang Liu was a little surprised. How did you know? Lu Qiufang suddenly interrupted. Because my adoptive father was also involved. Seeing Tang San and Yi Lingling looking at him, Lu Qiufang smiled a little embarrassedly. Yi Lingling looked at Tang Liu again. Where are Su Yu and Su Chen? Where did you send them? Tang Liu took out the carriage and answered at the same time. They have been in Xiandao City, helping me monitor the Crown Prince of Xiandao Empire, Zhu King. Yi Lingling, does that Zhu King have another identity? If he is just a Crown Prince of Xiandao Empire, it doesn't seem worth your attention. Tang Liu glanced at her, then took the lead in getting on the carriage. It seems that you have become a lot smarter in the past 3 years. Something flashed in Yi Lingling's eyes, and then she also got on the carriage. After all, it is still very tiring to scheme with the Fire Leopard sect every day. Tang Liu nodded slightly. Not bad. Lu Qiufang was the last one to get on the carriage. After he came up, Tang Liu drove the carriage, and then teleported away from the city with the carriage. They came to a city in the south of Xingluo Empire. There was also a sect that was one of the 4 sects. But now that sect has become a ruin. Mu Jing stood quietly in front of the ruins of the sect, watching a blue light suddenly appear in front of her eyes, and then a luxurious carriage appeared in front of her. She didn't have any waves in her heart, but walked up naturally, and then hugged Yi Lingling who was waiting inside. Yi Lingling looked at her sincerely. Thank you. Mu Jing smiled softly. You're welcome. Tang Liu looked at Mu Jing and got straight to the point. What level are you now? Mu Jing looked at him, paused, and was a little disappointed. Level 68. Tang Liu just nodded. That's still not bad. Mu Jing asked him in return. What level are you now? Tang Liu smiled faintly. Still the same. Mu Jing nodded. Then where are we going next? Tang Liu activated the Haolan teleportation, teleporting the people and the carriage away from the city, and then smiled and said, to another continent. Several people looked outside and saw the endless ocean. Then, the puppet horse in front of the carriage suddenly stepped up into the air, and then got higher and higher, until it was completely above the sky, dragging the carriage and flying quickly in the sky. Several people came to the outside of the carriage in amazement, looking at the clouds around them for a while, and looking at the vast and endless ocean below. After being amazed, Lu Qiufang found a problem. Aren't we taking Su Yu and Su Chen with us? Tang Liu simply said, that place is not suitable for them to go. 1 month later, Tang San has successfully gathered the 4 major families that were once affiliated with a Haotian sect and successfully established a Tang sect. Then, under the leadership of the patriarch of the Power Clan, that is, Titan, Tang San came to a city specializing in the sale of rare metals, Jiangxin City. Here, he found a man known as a master craftsman, and also bought the rare metals that made the top 3 hidden weapons of the Tang sect, and invited the master craftsman, Lu Gao, back with him. However, not long after returning to Xiandao City, the royal family of the Xiandao Empire encountered trouble again. This time, it was the emperor of the Xiandao Empire, Emperor Zhu, who was seriously ill and dying. However, after Douluo's test, it was found that Emperor Zhu was actually poisoned by someone, a mixed poison that even he could not solve. As a last resort, he invited Tang San, and for the sake of safety, Tang San also brought Yang Wudi, an elder of the Puyi clan who was also proficient in this way, to go to the palace together. However, on the way to the palace, they were obstructed, so Tang San took out the prince token that Zhu King had given him, and was released. It was at this time that he began to doubt whether the poisoning of Emperor Zhu had something to do with Zhu King. What happened later also proved that it was indeed related to Zhu King. Oh no, it shouldn't be said that Zhu King, because the real Zhu King had died a long time ago. The real cause of all this was Jin Ringsu. It was still the work of the Spirit Hall. Later, they fought with Jin Ringsu, as expected, and the 2 titled gallows who followed Jin Ringsu, a thorny porpoise and a snake spear. Douluo was entangled by the thorny porpoise Douluo, and the snake spear Douluo was entangled with Yang Wudi. Jin Ringsu herself started fighting with Tang San. However, Tang San found that the extremely beautiful young woman in front of him seemed a little absent-minded. Her red lips opened and closed slightly, as if she was saying something. Tang San listened attentively, and then heard "Fuck, it's really true, it's exactly the same, so the things called milk tea and cake are also real." These words he couldn't understand. Tang San, anyway, let's put the things on Douluo continent aside for now. Just when Tang San and his friends were fighting in full swing, Tang Liu and his 4 companions also arrived at their destination. When the edge of the continent appeared in everyone's eyes, they realized that the other continent Tang Liu mentioned had arrived. Yi Lingling was the first to see the continent line. She asked excitedly, "Is this another continent? Is it the same as ours, with many soul beasts and soul masters?" Tang Liu looked at Yi Lingling, who seemed to be more cheerful than before, smiled slightly, and said, "There are soul masters on this continent as well, but the soul masters here are not as strong as ours. However, there are several soul beast gathering places that are as dangerous as the Starred-Out Great Forest. In addition, although the soul masters here are not strong, their soul guides are more advanced than ours. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 Sun Moon Continent, Sun Moon Empire. Soul Guides? Several people looked at each other, all of them were a little puzzled. After all, in their opinion, soul guides were just some tools to assist life. So far, the soul guides they have seen are only storage soul guides, soul guide lamps, and soul guide amplifiers. With only these few soul guides, they really can't imagine how powerful the humans on this continent can be. Tang Liu just looked at the people with different expressions, smiled, and then said, "Just wait and see, this continent may bring you some surprises." Several people shrugged and said nothing. Tang Liu continued at this time, "Oh, by the way, the name of this continent is the Sun Moon Continent, and there is only one country on it, named the Sun Moon Empire. The royal family of this empire is surnamed Su, and is divided into 2 branches. The inherited martial spirit of one branch is the Sun, which is an absolute top martial spirit. The inherited martial spirit of the other branch is the purple brilliant sky-destroying dragon, which is also a top east martial spirit. However, although their martial spirits are powerful, because of the frequent use of drugs to enhance their strength is still inferior to that of the soul masters of the same level in our Douluo continent. Of course, their soul guides can make up for these gaps to some extent. However, their soul guide technology is not yet mature, so we still have the overall advantage. Even so, you should not underestimate their soul guides. If you are lucky enough to live to the next era, the power of the soul guides will surely surprise you." Since Tang Liu's expression became much more serious when he said this, the other people also took Tang Liu's words a little more seriously and took them to heart. At this time, Tang Liu looked at Yi Lingling next to him and suddenly smiled. "By the way, Lingling, some soul guidance techniques in the Sun and Moon Empire can enable auxiliary soul masters like you to have good combat effectiveness." Yi Lingling was stunned. "Really?" Tang Liu smiled and nodded, "Of course." After hearing his words, Yi Lingling suddenly became interested in the soul guides that Tang Liu talked about, and so did the others. They were also very curious about what this soul guide that could allow auxiliary soul masters to have decent combat power would look like. The capital of the Sun Moon Empire, Mingdu. Just like the Xingguang auction house in Xingluo city of the Xingluo Empire, Mingdu also has the largest auction house in the entire Sun Moon Empire, called the Mingdu Auction House. This Mingdu auction house is different from the auction houses on the Douluo continent. You don't need proof of assets to enter, or enter as a provider of auction items. However, if you want to enter the Mingdu auction house, you need to show an invitation letter from the Mingdu auction house. The Mingdu auction house only issues invitations to the powerful. In other words, civilians are not allowed to enter the Mingdu auction house. Since there is only one Sun Moon Empire on the entire Sun Moon continent, there are no trade tycoons or anything like that. In the Sun Moon Empire, powerful people are wealthy people. When Tang Liu and his 4 companions reached the edge of the Sun Moon continent, it took them about 10 days to reach Mingdu. Since the clothing style of the people living on the Sun Moon continent is different from that on the Douluo continent. In order to not attract attention, they first got a few sets of clothes to change into. Then, after much inquiry, They found a Mingdu official who had some power in Mingdu, but the power in his hands was not too great. After Tang Liu controlled him, he helped several people get the invitation letter of Mingdu auction house through him. Because the Sun-Moon continent had not yet collided with the Douluo continent at this time, the currency of the Sun-Moon continent had not yet been unified as the Soul coin like the Douluo continent. The currency on the Sun-Moon continent is a kind of paper money made of special materials, which is called Ming coin by the locals. After Tang Liu heard this name, he was stunned immediately, and then he stuffed all the Ming coins looted from the Mingdu official to Mu Jing next to him, and then kept wiping his hands on his clothes. Mu Jing, who was inexplicably stuffed with a handful of Ming coins, Tang Liu found a sink, and while washing his hands, he said to Mu Jing, "Well, in the Sun-Moon Empire, you will manage the Ming coins. You can make your own choice." Others, in the end, the management of Ming coins fell into Lu Qiufeng's hands. Because compared with Mu Jing and Yi Lingling, his ability to manage money is undoubtedly better. After all, he once lived a penniless and frugal life, and he is better at living than Mu Jing and Yi Lingling. The purchasing power of large denomination Ming coins is similar to that of the golden soul coins on the Douluo continent. Tang Liu and his team found nearly 1 million Ming coins from the home of this Mingdu official. Although this number sounds large, it is still a bit stretched if you really want to participate in the auction of the Mingdu auction house. Because the Mingdu auction house itself is a high-end auction, and there are no low-level auctions. And at the top auctions, each item can be sold for at least hundreds of thousands of yuan. Of course, the things that can be auctioned by the Mingdu auction house must be fine products, otherwise they can't be sold at that price. So everyone looked at each other, and then decided to rob a few more powerful people. After scraping together nearly 10 million Ming coins, the four of them strode towards the Mingdu auction house with the invitation letter. Then they were told by the etiquette lady at the door of the auction house that it was not time for the auction to start yet. Everyone, Tang Liu quickly condemned his teammates and whispered, "Why are you so stupid? Don't you even look at the time written on the invitation letter?" Mu Jing chose to hit her captain. "The invitation letter has been with you from beginning to end." Yi Lingling was also unceremonious. "And you brought us here." Lu Qiufeng smiled honestly. "I have always just followed your footsteps, stall owner Tang Liu, but it doesn't matter. As long as he's not embarrassed, it is others who are embarrassed." Tang Liu coughed lightly, and then said to the etiquette lady, "We just came here to ask if there are any illustrations of the items to be auctioned tonight, so that we can go back and take a look." He even imitated the accent of Mingdu to make his words sound more credible. By the way, although the Sun-Moon continent has not yet collided with the Douluo continent, the language used by the people of the Sun-Moon Empire is the same as that of the Douluo continent, except for the accent and some words. But this does not affect ordinary communication. As for the accent of Mingdu, Tang Liu said that he learned it now, with a system. "I can't do it anymore, I'm so sleepy. I have to get up early tomorrow, so I'm going to sleep first. I'll make up for the rest tomorrow." Chapter 285 Mingdu Auction House. After listening to Tang Liu's words, the etiquette lady smiled lightly, and then led the four people into the building of Mingdu Auction House. Going deeper into the interior, the four people saw several display cabinets on both sides of the corridor, and the objects of various shapes in the display cabinets. Some were pieces of shiny, colorful metals. Some were regular, but strange black objects. Others were bracelets, necklaces, rings and other accessories inlaid with gems. Finally, there were some cylindrical objects. Under the display cabinet, there was a simple introduction to the items in the display cabinet. With extraordinary eyesight and memory, the three people except Tang Liu could see the introduction on the display cabinet clearly. Some were called level 5 soul guide cannons, level 4 paralysis cannons, etc. Others were recognized by them, that is, those accessories inlaid with gems, which were storage soul guides. Finally, what puzzled the three people were those cylindrical-looking objects. Because that object was actually called a milk bottle. Milk bottle? Is it used for drinking milk? If it was really the kind of milk bottle they thought, why would it appear in a top auction house like Mingdu Auction House? However, when they saw the introduction of these milk bottles, the expressions of the three people changed at the same time. Because it was written on the display case of the milk bottle that its effect was to store soul power and replenish soul power. And they also saw a fourth-level milk bottle, and it was written on the display case that it could store the complete soul power of a soul master. The three people were stunned. What is the concept of being able to store the entire soul power of a soul master? If a soul master uses up all his soul power and then uses this 4th level milk bottle, he can fill up the soul power in his body again, and then continue to fight in a complete state. If there are enough of these 4th level milk bottles, does it mean that the soul master can fight indefinitely? Seeing the shock and confusion of the 3 people, Tang Liu explained to them in secret, the use of the milk bottle is also limited. First of all, it will not generate soul power by itself. If you need to use it to replenish soul power, then you need to inject enough soul power into it in advance. Of course, the soul power of different soul masters is also different. In addition to our own soul power or the soul power of our partners who can complete the fusion of martial souls, other people's soul power is harmful to ourselves. Therefore, during the design and production process of the milk bottle, a filtering device was added, which can completely filter the injected soul power into attributeless soul power without any attribute energy, so that it can be absorbed by any soul master. Secondly, using the milk bottle to replenish soul power is not completed instantly, and this process takes time. You can also understand this process as extremely fast practice to restore soul power. Finally, when you use the milk bottle to restore your soul power, you need to be in a relatively calm state, otherwise your body will not be able to bear the load generated by replenishing soul power. This relatively calm state means that you can no longer use soul power to a large extent. In addition, you can only use one milk bottle to replenish soul power at the same time. Of course, if your physical fitness is very good, it is not a problem for you to use several milk bottles at the same time. Otherwise, your body will not be able to bear the load generated by absorbing the soul power in the milk bottle, which will cause serious damage to the body. After listening, the 3 finally understood and had a more detailed understanding of the milk bottle. Similarly, because of this milk bottle, the 3 began to pay more attention to soul guides, because this is something that is not available on the Douluo continent. Although this milk bottle has many shortcomings, the role it can play is still unimaginable. At least it can greatly improve the endurance of soul masters. The role that a milk bottle can play is already like this. Then what kind of shock will those soul guide cannons bring to them? Finally, the etiquette lady took the few people to a VIP room deep in the corridor. In the VIP room, 4 etiquette ladies had been waiting for a long time, each holding a plate that looked very luxurious. The plate was covered with a layer of fine gold velvet cloth, and a picture album was placed on the cloth. After the 4 people sat down, the 4 etiquette ladies came up and handed the picture albums on the plates to the 4 people. After that, the 4 etiquette ladies left. The etiquette lady who brought them here at the beginning also smiled and said at this time, "Excuse me, 4 distinguished guests, do you need me to stay and explain?" Tang Liu also smiled and said, "No, thank you," so the etiquette lady also politely left. However, before leaving, she opened a screen in the VIP room for Tang Liu and the others, and then said, "It will also show detailed introductions of all the items in this auction. The 4 distinguished guests can look through it by themselves." Except for Tang Liu, the other 3 people widened their eyes when they saw the black thing opposite them light up and some pictures appeared. After the etiquette lady left, Yilingling walked to the screen in disbelief and touched it gently. Feeling the warm touch from his fingertips, Yilingling turned back to look at Tang Liu and asked in surprise, "What is this thing?" Mu Jing and Lu Qifeng also looked at him curiously. Tang Liu then explained with a smile, "This is a soul guide screen, and the energy that drives it is also soul power. There should be some bottles in the back providing it with soul power, so you didn't see the etiquette lady injecting soul power into it or something?" Lu Qifeng asked curiously. "Stallmaster Tang, what is the use of this soul guide screen?" Tang Liu, "This can't be used for fighting, but if you insist on using it to hit someone on the head, it's not impossible. It will definitely hurt, but the actual damage it can cause is limited." Lu Qifeng, Mu Jing also asked, "Then what is the actual use of this thing?" Yilingling nodded in agreement. "Yes, although it looks magical, it doesn't seem to be of any use." Tang Liu answered them, "The effect that this soul guide screen can produce is still a little difficult for you to understand and agree with. However, I can tell you that this soul guide screen will become an indispensable item for everyone in the future." The 3 looked at the soul guide screen. It was hard to imagine that this thing that seemed to have no practical use at all could become an indispensable item for everyone. However, they did not dwell on this issue too much, and instead began to study the items that would appear tonight. I fell asleep halfway through coding this chapter last night. I coded more than half of it at about 23:30, and then slept until 0:32. Wow, this operation. Chapter 286A Soul Bone. Tang Liu was in charge of the soul guide screen, while the other three watched and listened to his explanation. Those who were particularly interested found the detailed introduction in the booklet in their hands and read it by themselves. There were a total of 10 lots in the auction tonight. The first 9 were high-level soul guides, 3 soul guide cannons, 4 fixed soul guide shells, and 2 close combat soul guides. When Tang Liu introduced these, he mostly introduced the specific functions of these soul guides. After talking about the first 9, he thought the 10th lot would also be a high-level soul guide. But when he turned to that page on the soul guide screen, he looked at the crystal-clear thing on the screen that looked like an arm bone and fell into silence. The other 3 also saw this thing on the soul guide screen or in the booklet in their hands one after another, and they all fell into silence. Because it was a soul bone. According to the introduction, it was a right arm bone. A right arm bone with water attribute. After the fusion, the Soul Master will most likely obtain an offensive soul skill or amplification soul skill related to water. In addition, this soul bone was produced from a sea soul beast that is more than 30,000 years old. However, if it was just a soul bone, they might not behave like this. What really made the 4 people fall into silence for a long time was the price of this soul bone. The starting price was 10 million Ming coins. Mu Jing immediately said, "Let's go and continue to rob money." Tang Liu calmly refused, "No, after all, we don't have any big sources of wealth here, so we are definitely not able to compete with the dignitaries who will come to the auction tonight. If we really want to get this soul bone, there's only one way," Yilingling said. "What other way is there? Do we have to rob it?" Tang Liu looked at her and didn't speak. Yilingling's expression became unbelievable. Just when she was about to say something, she suddenly realized, damn, this is really what they might do. So she nodded again. "Okay, you can make the specific arrangements when the time comes. However, how should we divide it after we get it? Look, it's not even official yet, and they've already started discussing how to divide the spoils." Tang Liu said without hesitation, "Give it to Mu Jing. Although this soul bone should be more than 90,000 years old and is extremely complete, its attributes don't match the 3 of us at all. In terms of fusion alone, the 3 of us can't compare to Mu Jing. After all, her 7-star plum martial soul first possesses the ability of water attribute." Yilingling had no objection. "Okay, let's do it." Mu Jing didn't refuse, nodded, and agreed. Then Lu Qiufeng said, "Stall owner Tang, since we have to rob, why don't we rob all 10 items tonight?" Tang Liu, Mu Jing, and Yilingling were stunned at the same time. Tang Liu looked at him and said, "I didn't expect you to be more evil than me." Lu Qiufeng scratched his head and said with an awkward but polite smile, "I just want to save some Ming coins for us. After all, I am in charge of money." Mu Jing couldn't think of anything to say for a while, so she said, "The young man is good at managing the household." The awkward smile on Lu Qiufeng's face became even stronger. Yilingling was fine. After all, during the 3 years of gradually destroying the Fire Leopard sect, Lu Qiufeng's style has always been like this. Because he is so good at managing the household, he will squeeze out the enemies after using them completely, leaving no trace at all. The potential of a black-hearted capitalist is fully revealed. Tang Liu thought about it, and then said, "It's not impossible to snatch all these 10 items, but we have to reduce the possibility of some trouble. After all, we are not just participating in this auction. What if there are soul bones next time? So we have to at least bid for 1 or 2 items, and then be robbed together with the winners of other items, so as to clear the suspicion." Lu Qiufeng was stunned, and there was only one thought in his mind. It seems that his rank is still not high enough. In the end, Tang Liu's idea was agreed by everyone, so the 4 of them began to discuss which items to bid. After discussing for a while, they set their sights on a soul guide cannon and a melee soul guide device, which were the 3rd and 7th items of the night, respectively. The starting prices were 200,000 and 500,000 respectively, which were still within the range of the current 10 million Ming coins that a few people could afford. Of course, it was still a bit risky to bid for all of them. After confirming, the 4 of them left the Mingdu auction house and began to wander around Mingdu, a capital city that was different from Xiandao City and Xingluo City. Unlike Xiandao City and Xingluo City, the buildings in Mingdu are generally high, with more than 10 floors. In addition, although Mingdu still has city walls, they are not too high or thick. In short, They look like they can't withstand powerful external attacks. However, in the sky above Mingdu, there are those detection soul guides flying, constantly monitoring the situation in Mingdu. Perhaps because the technology is not yet up to standard, these detection soul guides are extremely large and are not on the sky, so they can be seen with the naked eye. But it is still hard to imagine that the Sun and Moon Empire has already developed and put into use detection soul guides at this time. Now that it is like this, then 10,000 years later, the final victory of the Sun and Moon Empire is not so incredible. After wandering around Mingdu until the sun sets, the four of them simply bought some relatively new civilian soul guides with a newly acquired, and prepared for the auction. After that, they returned to the Mingdu auction house and waited for the auction to begin. Since soul guides such as soul guide cannons, fixed soul guides, and fixed soul guide shells are for military use, they are not sold on the market. Even if they are available, they are only some soul guide cannons such as paralysis rays that do not cause actual damage. After all, on the Sun-Moon continent, which is comparable in size to the Xingluo Empire, there is only one country, the Sun-Moon Empire. Under the rule of a royal family, it can be said that it is very peaceful. The most popular soul guides on the market are milk bottles, storage soul guides, and melee soul guides. After all, there are many soul masters in the Sun-Moon Empire, and these things are also of great use to soul masters. Chapter 287 The auction begins. After waiting for nearly half an hour in the VIP room during the day, the auction began. Led by the etiquette lady, they went deep into the underground of Mingdu auction house and entered a wide hall. In front of the hall was a huge exhibition stand. Above the exhibition stand, there were several private rooms numbered from 0 to 23. Tang Liu and his friends were taken to the number 17 private room and sat down. From beginning to end, they did not see other people participating in the auction. They only saw through the huge window facing the exhibition stand in the private room that some other private rooms within the visible range had lights on. There was a gauze curtain in front of the window of the private room, which could well block the outside view, thereby reducing the possibility of the appearance of the people in the private room being exposed. In this regard, Mingdu Auction House can be said to have considered the participating dignitaries. However, it is precisely because the participants are all dignitaries that Mingdu Auction House dare not neglect it. After all, if any of them gets into trouble, the consequences are not something Mingdu Auction House can afford. After waiting for about 5 minutes again, the huge booth was lit up with a bright warm light, illuminating the dark hall below. Then, a beautiful female auctioneer in a dress walked up to the booth and began to introduce herself. She also briefly performed the opening ceremony of this auction. After that, a display cabinet slowly rose from the feet of the auctioneer. The glass cabinet on it was the first item of this auction. An 8th-level soul guide cannon, which has 3 effects of fragmentation, explosion, and shock. The starting price is 100,000 Ming coins, and each bid cannot be less than 50,000, and can only be increased by integers such as 50,000 and 100,000. Tang Liu only followed a few times symbolically, and when it reached 300,000, he did not choose to follow up again. As for the way of bidding, it was also very simple. There was a button soul guide device next to the sofa where they were sitting, and it would automatically increase the price as long as it was pressed. In the end, the first item was sold at a price of 450,000, and it was bought by number 5. Next to it was the second item, with a starting price of 150,000. The one who finally bought it was number 7, and the transaction price was 500,000. When it came to the third item, Tang Liu began to bid hard. The third soul guide tonight was still an 8th-level soul guide cannon, which also had only one effect, explosion. The starting price was 200,000, and it was finally bought by Tang Liu for 600,000. This price was a bit of a loss in Tang Liu's estimation, but fortunately, the explosion effect of this soul guide can slightly make up for this. Tang Liu simply followed up on the next few items until the 7th item appeared. The 7th item was a melee soul guide, and its appearance seemed to be a small tang sword. This melee soul guide was also 8th level, and only soul masters who had reached the soul Douluo level could use it without obstacles. Of course, soul saints with relatively strong soul power like Tang Liu could also use it. According to the introduction, this melee soul guide can increase the soul power released by the user through this melee soul guide by 80%, while saving nearly half of the soul power of the soul master. This is also because the soul guide technology of the Sun-Moon Empire is not mature enough. After all, In Tang Liu's memory, the soul guide of the Sun Moon Empire after 10,000 years generally increases the soul master by 100%. Not to mention the battle armor and mecha after 20,000 years. In short, Tang Liu spent a full 3 million Ming coins to bid for this 7th soul guide. When Lu Qiufeng saw the transaction price, his distressed face almost wrinkled into a chrysanthemum. The 8th lot that followed was also a melee soul guide, and the 9th lot was a level 9 fixed soul guide shell. The level 9 fixed soul guide shell made Tang Liu a little excited. Even if the level 9 fixed soul guide shell of the Sun Moon Empire may not be able to kill a title Douluo of Douluo continent, its power is definitely at the level of title Douluo. Therefore, he followed until the end, until the price of this level 9 fixed soul guide shell exceeded 10 million Ming coins. He had to give up. However, he also remembered the box that had bought the 9th level soul guide shell, and then said to his teammates, "When we went to rob things at night, we got the soul bone, and the second one to go was this 9th level soul guide shell." The box that bought the 9th level soul guide shell was number 1, and the final transaction price was 20 million Ming coins. This was the last item of this auction. It was also an item that everyone who participated in this auction was looking forward to. 10,000 year soul bone. When the display case with the soul bone appeared next to the auctioneer, everyone's eyes couldn't help but look at the blue, crystal clear bone. Faintly, some streams of light of the same color burst out from the bone, surrounded the bone for a moment, and then merged into the bone again. Beautiful and magical. When the auctioneer announced the start of the bidding, the numbers on the big screen behind her began to jump rapidly. The starting price of 10 million, in the blink of an eye, another 10 million came out, and it was still rising rapidly. In just 2 minutes, the soul bone with a starting price of 10 million has already been priced at 50 million. After 50 million Ming coins, the number jumped much slower than before, but it was still rising steadily. Looking through the window of the box, looking at the number close to 80 million on the big screen, Lu Qiufeng couldn't help but sigh. They really don't feel bad at all when they raise the price. Yi Lingling, Mu Jing is concerned about another aspect. It seems that no matter where you are, soul bones are rare treasures. Now that they appear at this auction, these people will try to buy them even if they have to spend all their money. Tang Liu nodded and said, "That's right, the overall quality of soul masters is not very high now, and there are not too many soul beasts hunted, so the output of soul bones is not much." According to what he learned from Daimyo Bei, the number of soul bones in the treasury of the Xingluo Empire is no more than 10, and the inventory of the Spirit Hall is probably not much, otherwise they would not feel so bad when they lost 3 pieces to Shrek Academy. 10,000 years later, the Xingluo Empire was even rich enough to auction off the soul bones in the treasury, and even gave Shrek Academy a few extra ones. Moreover, at that time, Shrek's teachers went to the treasury to pick them out in person. If the soul bone inventory of the Xingluo Empire 10,000 years later was the same as it is now, it would definitely not be so generous. Chapter 288 I was robbed. Moreover, after 10,000 years, perhaps because of the Xianmeng ice silkworm and the three-eyed golden lion, the quality of the soul beasts in the Xingdao Great Forest has become relatively high. Those 10,000-year soul beasts that were killed by soul masters, as long as they were carefully looked for, basically have soul bones produced. The same is true for the more powerful 1,000-year soul beasts, such as the 1,000-year dark gold terror claw bear that provided the right palm bone of the dark gold terror claw. Tang Liu has always suspected that the soul bone is actually a piece of bone in the soul beast itself, which is constantly nourished by the soul power of the soul beast during the growth and cultivation of the soul beast. When the conditions are sufficient, this piece of bone that has been nourished by the soul power of the soul beast becomes a soul bone. In other words, at the moment when the soul beast was killed, all the soul power, soul, obsession, etc. in the body were all integrated into a piece of bone in the soul beast's body, and then the soul bone was formed. Thinking of this, Tang Liu suddenly recalled something. Now, in addition to the soul bone attached to the demon eye that has been fused, there are 2 dragon wing soul bones, and there is actually another soul bone. The torso bone that was exchanged from Tang Hao with a jade bone of the fallen immortal was Tang Hao's original torso bone. The integrity of this torso bone is also quite good, and the age is about 70,000 to 80,000 years. It is also a power type, so Tang Liu can absorb it immediately. Tang Hao told him that after the soul bone was fused with him, it gave him a powerful offensive soul skill. However, if Tang Liu wants to fuse it, unless it is a coincidence, The soul skill he obtains will not be the same as Tang Hao's. Because this is not a soul bone with solidified soul skills. There are as many soul skills as the soul beast that produced this soul bone has, and there are as many possibilities of obtaining soul skills after fusion. Anyway, back to the topic. After 5 minutes of competition, the price of this soul bone was finally sold at a price of 120 million, and it was the VIP in box number 1 who won it. The auctioneer below smiled and congratulated the VIP in box number 1. After all, the first and second high prices at the auction tonight were given by the VIP in box number 1, which also means that the commission she can get in the end is definitely a considerable fortune. Similarly, her status in Mingdu auction house will also be improved because of this auction. After the auction, employees will send the auction items to the winners. While the 2 soul guides they bought have not arrived yet, several people immediately began to discuss in a low voice. Mu Jing looked at Tang Liu and said, "Now, go and put the Shaolin mark on the people in box number 1. Tang Liu shook his head. "You can do it, but not in Mingdu auction house. Every place here is equipped with soul power detectors. The slightest soul power fluctuation will be captured, thus exposing our intentions and whereabouts. Moreover, you should be thankful that soul guide technology has not yet developed to the point where surveillance and eavesdropping devices can be developed. Otherwise we can only think about it casually and it is impossible to take any practical action." So Mu Jing had to say, "I'll listen to your arrangements." At this time, the staff of Mingdu auction house also arrived and sent their 2 soul guides over. The 2 soul guides were placed in a storage soul guide. After Tang Liu inspected the goods, he paid for it. After that, the 4 of them walked out of Mingdu auction house together. The city of Mingdu outside was already brightly lit. Compared to the Douluo continent, the nightlife of the citizens of Mingdu is undoubtedly richer. Even though it was almost midnight, the streets were still brightly lit. The 3 people who had never seen the bustling city at night were immediately attracted, so Tang Liu began to take them to wander around the prosperous streets of Mingdu. However, although they were wandering around in the night market, they did not forget their business. They remembered the surrounding streets and alleys and drew a simple topographic map in their minds. Although they failed to use the Shaolin mark to mark the dignitaries who participated in the auction tonight, Tang Liu still successfully locked their location with the help of the system. Coincidentally, none of the people who participated in the auction tonight chose to take the auction items home immediately, but chose to wander around the streets aimlessly. After knowing this news, Tang Liu was stunned for a moment, and then said to his 3 teammates, "I think we may not have to go through too much trouble tonight. We can just rob the thieves and reap the benefits." After hearing what he said, the 3 of them were all stunned. Tang Liu explained to them, "Everyone is walking around the street tonight. Most of them want to try their luck and see if they can buy or snatch the soul bone directly." After hearing what he said, the 3 of them understood. Mu Jing said, "What are you waiting for? Go and watch the show?" Tang Liu rejected her. No, we can't just go there directly, but we have to chase the person who stole our things." The 3 of them were puzzled. The winner of the first lot, the VIP in box number 5, was an uncle with a frustrated face. Moreover, this uncle was not only depressed, but also dark. However, black skin color is a very noble skin color in the Sun and Moon Empire, because the royal family of the Sun and Moon Empire has black skin. However, although this uncle looks depressed, he is very rich, otherwise he would not be able to bid for the 1st, 5th and 8th lots at the same time. However, although he is very rich, he still can't buy the last soul bone tonight, because that person is richer than him. However, everyone has a gambler's mentality, so he wants to try. Who can explain it clearly? What if he succeeds? If you don't try, how do you know if it will work? So, the uncle started walking on the streets of Mingdu, preparing to find a time to meet the guests in box number 1. After all, everyone is powerful and they always have to give each other some face. As a result, when he just walked to the entrance of an alley and was about to move forward, a figure in black suddenly rushed out of the alley, and in an instant, he took away all the rings, bracelets, and necklaces on his hands. Those were his storage soul guides. The middle-aged uncle with a droopy face instantly turned into a middle-aged uncle with a shocked face, and then ran after the man in black, waving his hands and shouting with full energy, "Fuck him, give it to me." The people in the city avoided him and watched the middle-aged uncle chasing the man in black with all his strength. The winner of the second lot was number 7. He didn't have much money, so he only bought the second lot. As for the rest, He either wasn't interested or couldn't afford them. Chapter 289 Wooden Puppet. I was so scared. Because he himself was an 8th level soul engineer, the reason why he bought the second lot was that he felt that there were some aspects of this soul guide that were worth learning from, and maybe it could give him a glimpse of the way to enter the 9th level soul engineer level. Although he was an 8th level soul engineer, his wealth could not allow him to afford a soul bone. So he planned to rob it directly. He felt that with his strength as an 8th level soul engineer, he must have a high success rate to get the soul bone. Maybe he could also attach a 9th level fixed soul guide shell. It was worth his desperate risk. However, when he passed an alley, a man in black suddenly rushed out from it, and with a method that he could not understand and at an incredible speed, he fumbled around on his body, and instantly took away all the stored soul guides on his body, and then quickly slipped away. The 8th level soul guide dragged his somewhat weak legs, trying to endure the numbness of his body after being touched by the black-clothed man. His cheeks were slightly red, and he shouted with a lack of breath, "Stop for my husband." Then he drove his soul guide propeller and chased after him. The winners of the third lot were the 4 VIPs in the number 17 private room. These 4 VIPs were all handsome and beautiful, but this could not hide the fact that they were 4 poor people who had just arrived. They had no special intentions, just wanted to stroll around the night market in Mingdu and buy some novel gadgets or some very practical soul guides. As a result, when they passed a small alley, a black-clothed man suddenly rushed out from inside, snatched their stored soul guides in a way that they could fully understand, hid them, and then ran away quickly. So the blue-haired young man who was the leader of the 4 rushed after the black-clothed man who had taken a few fake storage soul guides. While running, he shouted, "Help, robbery. Come quickly." The 2 ladies following him, the last handsome guy may feel a little bit reluctant to see his boss and the team shouting alone, so he also stammered and shouted, "Come, come, rob, rob, rob." The 3 in front turned around. The soul bone winner number 1 guest is actually a member of the current Sun Moon Empire's royal family, named Su Su, the 5th prince of the Sun Moon Empire. Because of his status as a prince, he was able to have the money to buy the 9th level fixed soul guide shells and a 10,000-year soul bone in succession. The 5th prince is not very old, just around 25 years old. In short, he is still very young. And for this civilization, although it is mainly based on soul guide technology, it is still essentially based on strength. It means that he is still very weak. It is still easy to be subdued. Therefore, if he has a treasure and dares to wander around in this street in the middle of the night, he must have something to rely on. If he only relies on his royal status, it is far from enough. After all, although the palace is in Mingdu, can't anyone who wants to disguise himself just wear black and no one can recognize him? At that time, even if the royal family wants to make trouble for someone, they have to find him first. And the real reliance of this 5th prince is a 9th level soul master who protects him at any time. He is also a royal worshipper of the Sun Moon Empire. Among the powerful soul masters in the entire Sun Moon Empire, he can be ranked first. Title Douluo, 9th level soul master. Title, Jin. Whether in Douluo continent or on this Sun Moon continent, title Douluo represents absolute high-end combat power and inviolable majesty. Su Su believes that as long as Jin Douluo is protecting him, no one will think of attacking him. Then he was slapped in the face by a man in black with strange tactics and extremely fast escape speed when he passed a small alley. Su Su, he was so frightened that he shouted loudly, old Jin, I was robbed, I was robbed." He didn't need to ask for support. An inconspicuous white-haired old man who had been silently following him rushed out immediately, and the light of soul guide thrusters appeared on many parts of his body. The old man, that is, Jin Douluo, followed closely behind the man in black. Although the distance was gradually shortened, he could only see the back of the man in black, so he couldn't help but be secretly shocked. He was a title Douluo, and he was equipped with several soul guide thrusters, but even so, he could only see the other party's back. What does this mean? It means that the other party is also a title Douluo, and his level must be higher than his. Otherwise, he would not be able to catch up. If this is true, then the scope of suspicion of the person who stole the soul bone is much smaller. After all, within the scope of the Sun and Moon Empire, there are not many title Douluos with a higher level than him. The wooden puppet equipped with a top level shrinking the earth into an inch talisman, turning rice into hair, and there is only one person who can take away all the storage soul guides on a person in an instant. Only the nightmare of the storage soul guide of the end invented by that person can have such an effect. The wooden puppet engraved with a magic hand rune. That person is another title Douluo worshipped by the royal family of the Sun and Moon Empire. A 9th level soul guide with a soul power level 3 levels higher than him. Title, Jiang. Moreover, that guy Jiang Douluo also happens to be missing a piece of right arm bone. This must be the case, so he had evil intentions towards the soul bone of the 5th prince. The wooden puppet that was set to steal the soul bone, Jin Douluo immediately blew his beard and glared, and shouted loudly, "Old Jiang, stop for me. I already know that it was you who stole the soul bone. Stop now, His Majesty can still give you a lighter sentence." The nameless wooden puppet silently sped up a little. Jin Douluo was horrified. "You old fellow actually dared to speed up? If you don't stop, believe it or not, I will let the 5th prince seal off your source of rare metals in the future." The wooden puppet didn't dare to say anything anyway, just kept running wildly. Jin Douluo said sweetly, "Jiang Douluo, I love you." The wooden puppet couldn't help but hug himself tightly. Humans and wood can't bear fruit. Jin Douluo kept chasing the black-clothed man in front of him, and then he accidentally collided with a guy who also flashed a soul guide thruster. Both of them were very fast, and now after colliding, the force was naturally huge, which triggered the defensive soul guides on both of them at once. But then, the defensive soul guides on their bodies shattered, so the two of them actually collided. 6 updates today, 6 updates tomorrow. From now on I will never have a day to update again, and within the maximum limit of my daily workload, I am really a little clever ghost. Funny to save my life. Chapter 290 Fenet Fang. Jin Douluo and VIP number 7, the level 8 soul guide, collided with each other, destroying most of their soul guides and causing them to suffer serious injuries. They also let go of the black-clothed men they were chasing. After recovering, Jin Douluo and the level 8 soul guide immediately said, "Fragrant," to each other. Soon after, the 8th level soul engineer saw Jin Douluo's face clearly, and his expression, tone and body couldn't help but tremble. He swallowed back the fragrance he had not yet spit out, and then said very carefully, "Teacher, Jin Douluo, huh? Fenfang is actually your disciple Fenfang." Then Jin Douluo became furious. "Fenfang, you Fenfang, how did your master usually teach you to be Fenfang? You should be calm and composed when doing things. You are so impatient, chasing Fenfang. Fen, I don't know how many of my ribs were broken by you." Fang. Fen was satisfied, and Jin Douluo calmed down again, and then asked, "What were you rushing about just now?" The 8th level soul engineer immediately felt aggrieved. "I was robbed, teacher, so I'm chasing the person who robbed me." Having said that, the person who robbed me was also very powerful. I don't know what method he used, but he took away all the storage soul guides on me in an instant. He ran so fast that I couldn't catch up with him, even if I activated all the soul guide thrusters. Jin Douluo was immediately surprised. "What, you were robbed too? What did he rob you of?" The 8th level soul engineer answered truthfully, "What I bought at the auction today was the second 8th level soul guide cannon." Jin Douluo suddenly realized, "You also participated in this auction." The 8th level soul engineer was a little surprised. "Why, you are here too, teacher?" Jin Douluo nodded. "Yes, I accompanied the 5th prince. However, a 9th level fixed install soul guide shell and a soul bone that the 5th prince bought today were robbed. I was chasing him just now, but I ran into you, the unlucky kid. Now the other party is completely gone." At this point, Jin Douluo couldn't help but want to spit out the fragrance again. Looking at the well-behaved disciple in front of him, he endured for a long time, but still couldn't help wanting to deal with the door himself. "Jin Douluo, go back to the palace immediately and copy the basic principles of Soul Masters for me 1001 times. I want to see it tomorrow morning. If you copy it less than 1 time, you will make me 100 different types of 8th level soul guides tomorrow." The 8th level soul master trembled inwardly. "Then teacher, what should I do with my stolen things?" Jin Douluo waved his hands impatiently and said, "I have basically determined who stole our things. Hurry up and get out of here." The 8th level soul master hurriedly said yes, and then endured the pain in his chest and rushed to the palace immediately. Damn, how can I copy the basic principles of Soul Masters 1001 times in one night? However, making 108 different types of soul guides in one day, this seems even more impossible. Fortunately, he has a printed template of the basic principles of Soul Masters. If it is 1001 copies, one night should be enough to make it, right? After the 8th level soul guide left, Jin Douluo couldn't help but hold his chest and let out a deep hiss. According to his estimation, at least 4 of his ribs were broken in the collision just now. So he immediately took out a very special soul guide from his storage soul guide and placed it on his chest, and then took another pill. After injecting soul power into the special soul guide, the soul guide automatically attached to his chest, and after a tremor, all his 4 broken ribs were straightened back. With the effect of the pill he just swallowed, the injury will soon be healed. At this time, the 5th prince finally caught up, looked at him, and asked anxiously, "Old Jin, how is it? Did you catch the person who stole my soul bone?" Jin Douluo first took back the soul guide, then shook it and said, "Sorry, Your Highness, because of some accidents just now, I couldn't catch up with that person. But, I think I may have known who the person who stole your soul bone is." The 5th prince immediately asked, "Who is it?" Jin Douluo narrowed his eyes. "It's very likely that it's Jang Douluo." The 5th prince's face changed. "Jang Douluo? Did my second brother instruct him to do it?" Jin Douluo shook his head slightly. "Maybe he just wanted that soul bone himself. As far as I know, he just happened to be missing the soul bone of his right arm." The 5th prince still couldn't figure it out. If he wanted a soul bone, he could have asked my second brother or father for it. Why did he have to snatch it from me? I still think that it must have been my second brother who instructed Jang Douluo to do it. After all, my martial soul is the sun, and his martial soul is the purple glorious sky-destroying dragon. In terms of attributes alone, his martial soul is obviously more compatible than mine. The 5th prince insisted that it was the second prince who instructed him, because the second prince and he were both candidates for the throne. So far, they are still in a state of equal strength, but he believes that if there is a chance, his second brother will never give up suppressing him. Because he will not miss any opportunity to suppress the second prince. At the moment, this soul bone is undoubtedly a good opportunity for the second prince to suppress the 5th prince. If used well, it can not only limit the 5th prince's strength, but also reduce the 5th prince's status and voice in the palace. It can only be said that this trick is not bad. The more the 5th prince thought about it, the more he felt that this was a possibility, so he was filled with righteous indignation. "No, I can't let him succeed like this. Elder Jin, let's go back to the palace now and discuss countermeasures." Jin Douluo could only agree. Yes, Tang Liu and his group of 4 who had watched the whole process nearby, watching the 5th prince Su and Jin Douluo slowly walk away, Tang Liu finally couldn't help but say, "This is a little different from the script I set." Mu Jing paused for a moment, and said, "Isn't this better? There is no need to get an alibi and a victim certificate, because they directly help you lock in the murderer." Tang Liu, Lu Qifang seemed a little excited, holding several storage soul guides in his hand. "Come on, let's divide all those soul guides." Yi Lingling stretched out his hand to stop him, and said, "Just take that soul bone and the 9th level fixed type soul guide shells." Lu Qifang was stunned. Tang Liu understood what she wanted to do and said, "Divert the trouble to others and use their own trick against them." Yi Lingling nodded slightly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 All Parties. Tang Liu thought for a moment, then said, "In addition to the soul bone and the level 9 fixed soul guide shell, look for any level 6 or 7 soul guides. If there are any, take them all, so you don't have to buy them again. The soul masters here are all soul guides, and the soul guides they make and collect are almost all fine products." Lu Qifang nodded and began to search among the storage soul guides. Tang Liu teleported everyone away at the same time. The Sun Moon Empire Palace. In the main hall, where civil and military officials hold court. There is a big event today, which is the public trial of the second prince and Jang Douluo for openly robbing the auction items. At first, the second prince and Jang Douluo seemed unconvinced and wronged under the prosecution of the 5th prince and Jin Douluo, but when the current emperor of the Sun Moon Empire ordered people to search the rooms of the second prince and Jang Douluo for the stolen storage soul guides, the expressions of the second prince and Jang Douluo changed. They protested even more strongly for their injustice, but their expressions made everyone present distrustful. The emperor of the Sun Moon Empire seemed very disappointed, and finally ordered the second prince to be exiled to the frontier, and asked other priests of the Sun Moon Empire to take Zhang Douluo to the Temple of Priests for house arrest. After everything was over, Tang Liu, who was hiding his figure, quietly left the palace. Although the Sun Moon Palace was full of detection soul guides, Tang Liu's void spirit anonymity state could not be detected by any form of detection means, so he was not worried about being discovered, not to mention that he had the advanced soul skill of void spirit anonymity, void spirit erasure as a backup, so he didn't have to worry about it. After the division of the spoils that day, Tang Liu took the storage soul guides into the palace and hid them in the rooms of the second prince and Zhang Douluo respectively. Then just now, he controlled the Hyaolin mark left in the bodies of the two people, disguising all their expressions and movements as being overly guilty and afraid, but they themselves would not notice it at all, so they lost everyone's trust and gave everyone a psychological hint that the second prince and Zhang Douluo were the murderers. After all this was done, there was no more work for Tang Liu and the others, so the four of them ate and strolled around in Mengdu. When they got tired of strolling, they found a place to test their new soul guides. Whether it was Mu Jing, Yi Lingling, or Lu Qifen, they all had excellent talents. Naturally, even if they learned soul guides that they had never touched before, they could get started very quickly. Yi Lingling, a pure healing soul master who originally had no combat ability, could fight Lu Qifen and even Mu Jing for a few rounds with the help of soul guide cannons, soul guide thrusters, close combat soul guides, and small fixed soul guides. And Lu Qifen and Mu Jing were also like a tiger with wings under the amplification of soul guides, and their strength was further improved. Such a change also made Mu Jing, Yi Lingling and Lu Qifen, who were originally indifferent to soul guides, pay more attention to soul guides. However, for several people, the defensive soul guides and milk bottles are more practical and important. Tang Liu had also considered this before. So when he asked Lu Qifen to search for soul guides that day, he asked him to pick out all the defensive soul guides above level 6 and all the milk bottles in case of emergency. Defensive soul guides are a blessing for soul masters who do not have strong defense. If used well, it is not a dream to kill strong enemies. Sometimes it is even equivalent to having one more life. In short, the ability to save life is extremely strong and can greatly reduce the damage to oneself. Not to mention the milk bottle, it can help soul masters quickly restore soul power, quickly adjust the state, improve endurance, and directly give you one more blue bar than the opponent. After staying in Mingdu for more than a year, everyone was guaranteed to reach the bottleneck of soul power, so the four of them embarked on the second stop of this trip to the Sun and Moon Empire. A soul beast forest located in the northwest of the Sun and Moon continent. It is also the first forbidden land for humans in the Sun and Moon Empire. Demon Forest. Douluo continent. A lot of things have happened during this period of time. The Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Rex clan was exterminated. The Emperor of Xiandao was almost poisoned to death. The second saint of the Spirit Hall appeared. And she is the crown prince of the Xiandao Empire, Zhu King. But her real name is actually Jin Ringsu. The daughter of Jin Zunji, the previous pope of the Spirit Hall. Tang San founded the Tang sect, recovered the four major families that were once affiliated with the Haoshan sect, and strengthened the Tang sect with strength, defense, agility, and destruction. He also went to Jengxin City and found the metals for making the top 3 hidden weapons of the Tang sect, as well as a master craftsman. After that, the continent unexpectedly fell into a peaceful state. However, everyone can see what kind of turbulent undercurrent is hidden under this peaceful state. After that, the Shrek 7 devils gathered again. In order to gain the strength to fight against the Spirit Hall, the Shrek 7 devils went to an island. A place called Devil's Island. But in fact, the real name of the island is Sea God Island. Xiandao City. Su Yu and Su Chen sat in a private room of a tea house, looking at the tea in front of them, which was no longer emitting white mist, with some boredom. Su Yu gently stirred the tea in the teacup in front of him with a teaspoon, watching the tea leaves inside swirl with the tea. After a while, she sighed lightly, put down the teaspoon in her hand, looked at Su Chen who had a blank expression on his face, and said, "Hey, don't you think it's boring?" Su Chen raised his eyes to look at his sister and said lightly, "What do you mean?" Su Yu was a little surprised. "You don't know what I mean." Su Chen let out a sigh of relief. "If you don't tell me, how can I know what you mean?" Su Yu nodded and said, "Okay. It's just that we have reached the bottleneck of level 50 for several years. If Captain Tang hadn't allowed it, I would have run to the starred-out Great Forest alone. There are so many soul beasts there, How challenging is it? It's not like here. I have been monitoring Jin Ringsu in secret. Now she has left Xiandao City and returned to Wuhan City, but why can't we leave? After that, she leaned back in the chair and stretched. Su Chen's tone remained flat. Just wait. Su Yu rolled her eyes. Yeah, we've been waiting for so long, but we still haven't gotten what we want. After saying that, she and Su Chen looked at each other at the same time, both stunned for a moment. Su Chen's voice became a little helpless. Sometimes, I really don't know what your mouth is for. Su Yu was a little stunned. I don't know either, but anyway, they're here. Chapter 292 Evil Eye. Su Chen stood up from his chair, clenched his fist slightly, and said, "You're just in time. Let's finish the last task quickly so that we can leave quickly." Su Yu laughed. "So you're also impatient?" Su Chen glanced at her helplessly, and then 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings slowly rose from his feet. "Get ready," he said. "The enemies this time are a bit strong. And there are more of them." Su Yu jumped up from his chair, and 2 yellow and 2 purple soul rings also rose from his feet. "Okay, I'll be more serious in the final team assessment. Demon Forest. This is a soul beast forest closer to the north. Therefore, due to the temperature, the trees in this forest are all coniferous forests. In addition, they also present a special black and gray color. It looks very depressing, and gives people a very bad premonition everywhere." Tang Liu, Mu Jing, Yi Lingling, and Lu Qifen, the 4 of them entered this human-restricted area from the southeast of the demon forest. Due to the climate, the forest is damp and cold. When you step on the fallen leaves on the ground, it feels like you are stepping on a dense mass of insects. It is very uncomfortable. Before entering the demonic forest, Tang Liu told them, "The soul beasts in this forest are more aggressive, so if you encounter one that comes to you, just kill it directly. Just be careful of the unique evil eye soul beasts here. You must kill it with 1 strike, otherwise all of you may be in danger of death. In addition, no matter what level of evil eye you kill, you must be extra careful next time, because it may lead to a higher level of evil eye, which will be more troublesome." The evil eye soul beast is unique to this demonic forest. They are extremely strange. From the appearance, it is just an eyeball with many tentacles. The evil eye has many attributes, which can be seen from the color of their tentacles. The more colors of the tentacles, the more attributes the evil eye has. But for soul beasts like the evil eye, the fewer attributes they have, the stronger they are. No matter what kind of evil eye it is, there is one attribute, which is spiritual. The noblest and most dangerous evil eye is the evil eye of pure spiritual attribute, also known as the evil eye tyrant. In addition, the more tentacles, the stronger the evil eye's cultivation. Because it has spiritual attributes, the evil eye is very good at using mental power to create illusions to confuse its prey, and finally torture it to death. Or it can directly use mental attacks on the soul to turn the prey into an idiot, and then kill it. In short, this kind of soul beast is very difficult to deal with. So, for your own safety, after entering this evil forest, you must use your soul power to protect your head at all times, so as to reduce the spiritual invasion of soul beasts like the evil eye. Only in this way can you have a chance to defeat the evil eye. At the end, he smiled and added, "In fact, I brought you to the evil forest this time to hone your spiritual power. In addition, it is also equivalent to a team assessment. Finally, your first task in this evil forest is to add soul rings to yourself. The second task is to obtain a HUD soul bone of the evil eye tyrant with a cultivation of at least 50,000 years and pure spiritual attributes. By the way, due to the special nature of the evil eye soul beast, once it produces soul bones, it will definitely produce HUD soul bones. So you don't have to worry about obtaining soul bones in other parts of the body." He then paused, and then said, "That's all I want to say. Now, Mu Jing goes to the front, Yi Lingling follows Mu Jing, Lu Qifeng covers the rear to protect Yi Lingling, maintain the formation, and enter the evil forest." The 3 of them said yes with a serious look, and then they followed the formation ordered by Tang Liu and walked into the evil forest. Now, all 3 of them have reached the bottleneck of level 70. As long as they get the 7th soul ring, they can officially enter the soul saint level. However, this also means that the 3 of them need to find 3 suitable soul beasts with a cultivation of more than 50,000 years as their 7th soul ring. But the existence of soul beasts such as the evil eye in this evil forest undoubtedly increased the difficulty of obtaining soul rings this time. Not long after, they encountered an evil eye. This evil eye has a large eyeball with a diameter of about half a meter, and 3 tentacles are dragged under the eyeball. Its eyeball is green as a whole, and among the tentacles below, one is silver, one is green, and the last one is black. This means that this is an evil eye with corrosion attributes as the main attribute, and spiritual attributes and dark attributes as the auxiliary attributes. However, the cultivation of this evil eye is not very strong. It should be only about 6,000 years. For the 3 people who have now reached level 70, it is not difficult to kill it, but they have to be careful of its mental interference. Since they had received Tang Liu's reminder at the beginning, the moment they entered the demon forest, the 3 of them mobilized their soul power and firmly protected their heads. As for this 1,000-year evil eye, the spiritual power of several people was undoubtedly stronger than it, so the spiritual interference of this evil eye did not affect the 3 people. In addition, as Tang Liu said, the soul beasts in this forest are aggressive. Even when seeing the 3 people who are far stronger than themselves, this evil eye did not choose to escape immediately, but directly met them. Under its huge eyeballs, where those green tentacles passed, the ground was corroded into grooves. Although it is not clear whether the evil eye moves by crawling with those tentacles or flying directly, it does not prevent the 3 from noticing the extremely fast speed shown by the evil eye. However, even if the speed of this evil eye is twice as fast, it cannot pose any threat to the 3 people, because there is Mu Jing, a controlled type soul master. Among the 6 circles of soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple and 2 black, that rose from Mu Jing's feet, the first and second 100-year soul rings lit up almost at the same time. The control effects of 3,000 plum rains and plum blossoms like flowing fire instantly acted on the evil eye. While the evil eye's body was stiff, it was also bound by the plum blossom fire line and could not move at all. At this time, Lu Qiufeng in the back also made a move. He gently threw the Qiufeng in his hand outward, and the next moment, the Qiufeng turned into cold light and instantly pierced through the huge eyeball of the evil eye. Lu Qiufeng raised his hand again and made a light move, and the Qiufeng returned to his hand. At the same time, the evil eye, which was bound by the plum blossoms like flowing fire and could not move, let out a sharp scream, and a flower of blood spurted out from the part of the eyeball that was pierced by the Qiufeng. Good night everyone. Chapter 293. Let's keep going. Soon after, it completely fell to the ground, and the swollen eyeball quickly shrank. In the end, the entire evil eye turned into a ball of black ash. At the same time, a circle of bright purple soul rings appeared above the ash. Because it was Lu Qiufeng who killed the evil eye, the circle of purple soul rings slowly moved towards Lu Qiufeng. Lu Qiufeng gently waved his hand, and the circle of purple soul rings slowly dissipated. At this time, Tang Liu walked forward and stretched out his hand to grab in the pile of ashes. The next moment, a green diamond crystal flew out of the ashes and then fell into Tang Liu's hands. Tang Liu turned around and showed them the green crystal in his hand, while explaining, this crystal is also a special feature of the evil eye. Because they are actually spiritual beasts in nature, they can condense this crystal in their bodies. You can think of it as the carrier of the evil eye's soul. As long as this crystal is not destroyed, the evil eye's soul can hide in it and even move freely. If this is an evil eye that has entered the 100,000-year level, even if you have destroyed its body, as long as you can't get rid of the soul hidden in this crystal, you can't get its soul ring. And it's difficult to hurt the soul hidden in it by physical means alone, so at this time, you need to use your mental power. Look, like this, as he said, Tang Liu looked at the green crystal, and then his eyes lit up slightly. Then, the 3 people in front of him saw that the air around the green crystal was distorted like water waves. Then, Tang Liu looked at them again and said, do you understand, Mu Jing, Yi Lingling, Lu Qiufeng? I seem to understand that it is necessary to concentrate a mental power and then launch a mental attack on the crystal, right? Mu Jing and Yi Lingling looked at him in disbelief. Tang Liu nodded, that's right, it's just that the mental power of soul beasts with spiritual attributes is generally very strong, so you need to condense and compress the mental power to a high degree, so as to break the surface with a point, so that it is possible to break the mental defense of the evil eye soul. Then he threw the green crystal in his hand to the ground casually and said, but it's empty inside. Do you know what this means? Lu Qiufeng thought for a while and said, the soul of the evil eye just now has disappeared. Mu Jing and Yi Lingling's expressions suddenly changed. Tang Liu noticed the change in their expressions, so he looked at them and smiled. Remember what I said before? Mu Jing and Yi Lingling nodded solemnly. and Lu Qiufeng looked at them in confusion. Tang Liu smiled, then be careful next time. Keep going. As soon as he finished speaking, his figure disappeared from the spot. The three of them quickly lined up in the same formation as before and continued to move forward into the demonic forest. Along the way, the three of them also encountered many soul beasts, some of which they knew, and some of which they had never seen on the Douluo continent, but without exception, they all had strong hostility towards them. Once they met, they didn't know what retreat meant, and they all chose to rush up. Unlike in the Xingdao Great Forest, most of the soul beasts there would choose to watch cautiously from a distance after seeing human soul masters, and they would never be as reckless as the soul beasts in the demonic forest. However, so far, they have not encountered particularly powerful soul beasts, and they have not even encountered an evil eye. It may be because they are still on the outskirts of the demonic forest. In short, all along the way, they encountered soul beasts ranging from 5,000 to 30,000 years old. There are some that are suitable for them, but their age is too young to become their seventh soul ring. In this way, the three of them have been walking towards the demonic forest for more than half a month. They were not without worries, wondering if they had already entered the core area of the demonic forest, but Tang Liu, who had been following them, just said to them, "Keep going." Out of trust in him, the three did not ask more questions, but just kept moving forward. So another half a month passed. During this period, they encountered a more dangerous situation, that is, they were besieged by 5 soul beasts of different types with cultivation levels of more than 40,000 years at the same time. Because they had to protect Yi Lingling, Mu Jing and Lu Qiufeng did not choose to fight to the death with those soul beasts. After Mu Jing controlled them, the three of them immediately left far away. Those soul beasts naturally chased them for a long distance, but the three of them had soul guide thrusters, so they were much faster than those soul beasts. Not long after, the spirit beasts gave up chasing the three people. The three people breathed a sigh of relief. However, before they could catch their breath, Tang Liu, who had been following them, suddenly said, "Keep going." Mu Jing frowned, and then said, "At least let us recover our spirit power." "Tang Liu, don't you have a milk bottle?" Mu Jing was about to agree, when she saw Lu Qiufeng beside her come out, look at Tang Liu, and then said, "Tang, stall owner, can you show me your third martial spirit?" Tang Liu looked at him. "Why?" Lu Qiufeng shook his head gently. "I just want to see it." Tang Liu smiled, and then 7 circles of blue-black spirit rings slowly rose from the bottom of his feet. He then said, "Can I be fake?" Unexpectedly, just as he finished this sentence, Lu Qiufeng suddenly moved. His martial spirit Yu Feng appeared in Lu Qiufeng's hand in an instant, and 6 circles of spirit rings, 1 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black, were wrapped on the sword body of Yu Feng, and then turned directly into a flash of lightning and rushed towards Tang Liu. Tang Liu didn't dodge at all, and was pierced through the heart by Yu Feng. Lu Qiufeng waved his hand gently, and Yu Feng returned to his hand again. He stared at Tang Liu, who was still standing in the same place even though his heart was pierced. There seemed to be countless sword lights flashing in his eyes. He asked in a deep voice, "Who are you?" Tang Liu in front of him didn't say anything, just looked at him quietly. At the moment when Lu Qiufeng made a move, Mu Jing, who noticed something was wrong, quietly protected Yi Lingling behind her. With vigilance and doubt in her eyes, she looked at Tang Liu with a bloody hole in his heart, and then looked at Lu Qiufeng with an angry expression. Tang Liu didn't express any opinion on this, but said slowly, "Keep going." Chapter 294, Breaking the Illusion. Lu Qiufeng followed up his words and said in a deep voice, "Then when we fall down due to exhaustion, you can kill us one by one, right?" Tang Liu suddenly looked at him in surprise, and then said, "This shouldn't be the case." The moment he finished speaking, Lu Qiufeng suddenly tilted his head, closed his eyes, gritted his teeth and took a half step back, as if he was suddenly attacked. But then, he looked at Tang Liu again, and said breathlessly, "Since you have been seen through, don't think about influencing me again." As soon as he finished speaking, a sword light suddenly shot out from the depths of his eyes and hit Tang Liu directly. However, Tang Liu did not suffer any injuries from this attack, but his body and the world, like a broken mirror, completely shattered and disappeared, and then fell into darkness. It was like waking up from a dream. The moment the three regained their vision, they saw a huge green eyeball with a diameter of more than 1 meter appear in front of them. Under the green eyeball were 6 tentacles, half of which were silver and the other half were green. All external features show that this is an evil eye with a cultivation base of more than 10,000 years, and only has two attributes, corrosion and spirit, with a corrosion attribute being the main one. But even so, the spiritual power of this 10,000-year-old evil eye still dragged the three people into the spiritual power illusion it created without anyone noticing. The moment they saw this evil eye, Mu Jing and Yi Lingling immediately understood the whole story. It turned out that the three of them fell into the spiritual power trap of this evil eye from the beginning. The monk they had experienced before was all in the illusion of this evil eye. When this conclusion was reached, the two women were shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. Although they didn't know how long it had passed in reality, they didn't notice it at all when they were in the illusion. If Lu Qiufeng hadn't discovered something wrong first and broke the illusion, it would be hard to imagine how long they would stay in that illusion. Maybe it would really be as Lu Qiufeng said. Keep walking. Keep walking until they are exhausted. Then become the meal of this evil eye. After seeing that the three people had escaped from the illusion, the 10,000-year evil eye screamed and then rushed towards the three people at a high speed. Wherever the three green tentacles passed, the ground was corroded into crisscrossing gullies. The moment the 10,000-year evil eye moved, Lu Qiufeng suddenly swung his sword. The first four of the 6 soul rings on Qiufeng lit up almost at the same time. Then, Qiufeng turned into a stream of light and merged into his body, and the 6 soul rings originally on Qiufeng also appeared around him. This is his 4th soul skill, which was once a 1,000-year soul skill. Now it has been upgraded to a 10,000-year soul skill. Qiufeng turns the sword body. Let his body instantly obtain all the attributes of Qiufeng. In other words, at this moment, he himself is Qiufeng. Then, the first soul skill is sharp, the second soul skill is sharp, and the third soul skill is broken. The 3 soul skills that increase attack power are all attached to him. Then, the 5th soul ring, which is as black as ink, lights up. The 5th soul skill, sword flash. He raised his right hand, then clenched his fist. The next moment, he turned into golden sword light and rushed towards the evil eye. The speed was so fast that the evil eye had no time to dodge and could only watch himself being pierced by the golden sword light. A huge gap appeared in the center of the eyeball of the 10,000-year evil eye. It didn't even scream, and then fell to the ground. Like the 1,000-year evil eye before, the huge eyeball of this 10,000-year evil eye also shrank quickly, and then the whole body turned into ashes. A fist of black soul rings also slowly rose. Lu Qiufeng's figure also recovered from the sword light. He held Qiufeng again, and the tip of the sword lightly lifted it, and a green diamond crystal with silver patterns in the ashes flew into his hand. He focused his eyes, and a sword light flew out from the depths of his eyes and fell directly into the green crystal. However, it was still empty inside. Lu Qiufeng's expression became a little solemn. Just as he was about to turn around, he suddenly noticed something shining in the ashes. So he used Qiufeng to pick it out. It was a green bone with silver patterns. It looked like a part of the skull. Lu Qiufeng picked it up, then looked at Mu Jing and Yi Lingling behind him, and showed them the head soul bone and the crystal. The crystal is still empty. We have to be more careful next time. We killed a 1,000-year-old before, but now we have attracted a 10,000-year-old one. Now that we have killed this 10,000-year-old one, we don't know if there will be a more powerful one later. In addition, who wants this soul bone? Mu Jing and Yi Lingling shook their heads at the same time, because the properties of that soul bone were not suitable for them at all. Tang Liu's figure also appeared at this time. He smiled and looked at Lu Qiufeng and said, "Congratulations, you are the first to pass the test. You can keep that soul bone for yourself. Maybe you can exchange it for a better one in the future." Lu Qiufeng nodded, threw away the diamond crystal, and put the soul bone into the storage soul guide. Then he looked at Tang Liu and asked, "Tang Soul Master, how long have we been in the illusion?" Tang Liu smiled and said, "Not long, only about a day. However, in my initial estimate, you will probably need another day to find the flaws and then break through the illusion and escape. However, your sword eyes still make this time come forward. The sword eyes given to you by Qiufeng, whose effect of seeing through everything happens to be the nemesis of these illusion-like abilities. Use the sword eyes to check at any time in the future, and you will not encounter this situation again." Lu Qiufeng nodded, indicating that he understood. Then Tang Liu looked at Mu Jing and Yi Lingling, and said with the same smile, "You two ladies are still a little worse. I hope that next time you encounter an illusion, you can escape by your own strength." Yi Lingling asked him, How can people like us who don't have Xia Fang's sword eye's ability see through the illusion and escape from it? Tang Liu, you can imagine the illusion as a dream of yours, but the illusion is essentially much more advanced than a dream. Therefore, the methods you use to deal with dreams are ineffective against illusions. Because a good illusion controller can make you feel all the real pain in the illusion. Chapter 295 Illusion and Reality. When you are in a dream, you pinch yourself or hit yourself, but you will not feel any pain. Even if you jump from a high altitude in a dream, the final result is that you will wake up from the dream and will not feel any pain. But it is different in an illusion. You will feel pain if you pinch yourself, but if you jump from a high altitude, you will really fall to death. In an illusion, after you fall to death, your brain will also think that you have fallen to death. In addition to having various corresponding feelings, it will gradually weaken and finally die completely, which will lead to your real death. Therefore, in an illusion, do not easily try this kind of suicidal awakening. Of course, dreams and illusions still have a lot in common. In a dream, you can wake yourself up from a dream by constantly telling yourself, "This is just a dream." Naturally, in an illusion, you can also do this, constantly telling yourself and hinting to yourself, "This is actually just an illusion, everything is fake," so as to free yourself from the illusion. After all, the essence of the effectiveness of an illusion is just the result of the illusion controller deceiving your brain. Of course, it is difficult to do this, especially if your mental power is weaker. However, although it is difficult, it is still possible. I brought you to the demon forest this time in the hope that you can develop this ability. When you succeed, most of the mental interference in this world will no longer affect you. After listening to Tang Liu's words, the three of them nodded slightly and fell into deep thought. Telling yourself that everything is fake, it sounds simple, but it is difficult to do. When they are in an illusion, telling themselves all this is fake under that feeling is like being in reality at this moment, and then telling themselves over and over again that in fact, all this is also fake. It is impossible to succeed. Because they have already established fixed concepts in their minds. The world they live in is reality. How difficult is it to break this barrier? Of course, maybe this is not an impossible task. It's just maybe because, there is a kind of fear deep in their bones, in their blood, and in their souls that affects them. It is precisely because of the existence of this fear that they will subconsciously avoid any behavior that breaks that layer of barriers no matter what. Because no one knows what they will become when the reality that they believe in is denied, and they have actually been living in an illusion created by others, and they do not actually exist in that real reality. Sometimes we doubt the reality of this world, that is our deep desire for truth. But we can't break that barrier, that is our deep fear of the so-called truth. Everything is actually our instinct. Mujing and Yulingling also realized that if they want to break through the illusion through this method, they must first find the place where the illusion and reality conflict, so that they have a greater chance of escaping the influence of the illusion. After a simple rest, the three of them set out again to go deep into the evil forest. This time, the three not only increased their mental defense for the head, but also consciously observed the surroundings and remembered as many details as possible. In this way, even if they are pulled into the illusion again without any consciousness, they will be more likely to find different places through these details, so as to judge whether they have entered the illusion. However, this method also has some disadvantages, that is, every once in a while, they have to retreat a distance, and then compare everything around them one by one to see if it is the same as what they remember. Lu Qifeng has to use his sword eyes to observe from time to ensure that he has not entered the illusion to the greatest extent. Perhaps it was because the three of them had become more cautious that the enemies hiding in the dark could not find an opportunity. So after a few days, the three of them still did not encounter any abnormal situation. Except for the occasional attacks by soul beasts, it seemed to be calm. Calculating the area of the demon forest and their own speed of advancement, they are now probably in the middle area of the demon forest. In 3 days at most, they will be able to enter the core area of the demon forest. By then, the powerful 10,000-year soul beasts will become extremely active, and they may even encounter a 100,000-year soul beast. To be honest, with their current strength, they can win against soul beasts over 60,000 years old, but if they face a 100,000-year soul beast, they must run. Because the 100,000-year level is a qualitative change. If several of them have martial soul true bodies, they may be able to fight for a few moves, but now several of them only have 6 rings. There are 2 levels of soul masters, with martial soul true bodies and without martial soul true bodies. After all, although the restrictions after the use of martial soul true bodies are great, the gain effect obtained by soul masters during use is also extremely strong. Although they have been in the demonic forest for quite a while, the three of them have not encountered any suitable soul beasts. In fact, it is not that there are none, but all three of them have not chosen to merge. Why? Maybe it is because they have a vague idea in their minds. They all want to make the seventh soul ring of their martial souls stronger. The reason may be the 600,000-year soul ring on Tang Liu. When Tang Liu was a soul emperor, he added a 100,000-year soul ring to himself. However, according to theory, only when a soul master reaches level 90 can his body withstand the soul power impact of a 100,000-year soul ring. But Tang Liu himself is actually only a soul saint. Of course, they all know that Tang Liu has 3 martial souls. So far, his 3 martial souls have soul rings attached. Maybe it is because these soul rings improve his physical fitness that he can absorb a 100,000-year soul ring with such a cultivation. But, in the end, he is still only a soul saint, isn't he? Although Tang Liu's 100,000-year soul ring appeared in the 6th position of his first martial soul. But since he was able to absorb a 100,000-year soul ring, it meant that his highest-ranking soul ring must also be 100,000 years old. It was precisely because of the successful absorption of the highest-ranking 100,000-year soul ring that his body was able to withstand the addition of a 100,000-year soul ring to the lower-ranking soul rings of other martial spirits. Chapter 296 Su Chen. The highest-ranking spirit ring that Tang Liu possessed was the 7th spirit ring of his 3rd martial spirit. And what they just needed was the 7th spirit ring. In this case, is there a slight possibility that they can add a 100,000-year spirit ring to themselves when they enter the spirit saint level? Their reason has been telling them that this is simply an impossible thing. But they still can't help thinking. What if? Yes, what if? What if it succeeds? That is a 100,000-year spirit ring. No spirit master will not be tempted. Everyone has a gambler's mentality. It's just that everyone has different levels of control over it. But as long as there is a chance, especially the temptation of a 100,000-year spirit ring, I'm afraid no one can resist. From the moment they chose to join Tang Liu's team, they knew that they had to be good enough. Otherwise, even if Tang Liu himself didn't say it, they still knew that once they fell behind in this team, the end would definitely not be very good. Because their possible enemies would only be stronger than them. Even though Tang Liu didn't say this clearly. But they just had this feeling. Therefore, in order to avoid death and the confrontation that may occur in the future, they can only do their best to become stronger. Stronger than their future enemies. Wuhan City, Douluo Palace. Jin Ringsu sat on a chair, one hand supporting her pretty face, and the other hand tapped the table in front of her. The sunlight from the Douluo Palace fell on her golden hair and snow-white skin, making her look holy and shining. A year ago, she revealed her true identity in front of Tang San and fought with him and lost. After that, she returned to the Douluo Palace and concentrated on the Angel God test and merged the Angel God armor. So far, her cultivation has finally broken through the 7-ring Soul Saint and reached the 8-ring Soul Douluo realm. At the same time, she also successfully absorbed the 3rd Angel God armor, and now has a total of 3 soul bones. That is, not long after her cultivation reached the Soul Douluo level, some of the forces she had been staying in Xiandao City also brought her good news. The person who had been hiding in the dark and monitoring her for several years was found. She immediately issued an order, requiring those who had been monitoring her to be brought to her alive. Finally, her men found the 2 people who were monitoring her in a tea house in Xiandao City. They were actually just 2 soul masters. But these 2 soul masters killed 3 soul emperors and 5 soul kings among the people she sent. With just 1 martial soul fusion skill. But among the people she sent, there were also 2 soul saints. However, even with 2 soul saints leading the team, one of the 2 escaped in the end, and they only brought back 1. After receiving this news, Jin Ringsu asked her men to immediately bring the captured person to the Douluo Palace, and also asked them to allocate some people to continue to track down the whereabouts of the person who escaped. And today is the day she will see the person captured by her men. Jin Ringsu did not wait too long, and the door of the room she was in was knocked from outside. She immediately changed to a more serious posture, supported her hands under her head, supported her chin, and then said, "Come in." The door opened. A soul saint wearing spirit hall clothes brought in Su Chen, whose hands were chained, and the two stood in front of Jinriksu. The Soul Saint bowed to Jinriksu. Jinriksu nodded slightly. Retreat. The Soul Saint walked out of the room and closed the door. Jinriksu also waved her hand, and the special ropes that bound Su Chen's hands were cut off by a strong wind. Su Chen rubbed his stiff wrists and looked at Jinriksu in front of him expressionlessly. Jinriksu was also looking at him. For a moment, neither of them spoke, but just stared at each other. In the end, it was Jinriksu who broke the silence first. Your name is Su Chen? Su Chen did not answer. Jinriksu continued, the girl who ran away is your sister Su Yu, right? Su Chen still did not answer. I know you are the descendants of the Shadow Douluo in Xingluo, so for the sake of His Majesty the Shadow Douluo, as long as you tell me what I want to know, I can let you and your sister go. Jinriksu didn't care about Su Chen's attitude, but just said what she had to say. After hearing the name of his grandfather, Su Chen finally had some reaction. He had always been very calm and indifferent, but a smile appeared on his face, and then he said, deal. Jinriksu frowned slightly because of Su Chen's decisiveness and straightforwardness. After all, she knew who was standing behind Su Chen. It was precisely because of this understanding that Su Chen's straightforward agreement would make her suspicious. And she was a little unsure whether her suspicion was intentional by the person behind Su Chen, or just her own overthinking. In her opinion, the former was undoubtedly more likely. But what else could she do? Would she go back on her word and beat Su Chen up, or even kill him directly? In that case, it would undoubtedly directly anger the Shadow Douluo. And Shadow Douluo has the support of the Xingluo Empire. If you anger Shadow Douluo, you will also anger the Xingluo Empire. Now, the Spirit Hall has just experienced several battles against the Seven Treasures Glazed Sect, the Blue Lightning Tyrannosaurus Sect, the Xiandao Imperial Family, and the Xingdao Great Forest. The losses are huge and it is in a state of adjustment. In this state, it is undoubtedly an extremely irrational behavior to go to war with the Xingluo Empire. So Jinriksu can only ask. Even though she knows that the answer she gets may be wrong, she still has to ask. She rubbed her nose a little irritably, and then said, where is Tang Liu now? Su Chen answered her, anyway, he is not here. Jinriksu asked again, when was the last time you met? Su Chen said without hesitation, before. Jinriksu, how long ago? Su Chen did not answer her this time. So Jinriksu looked at him dimly and said, it seems that you are not going to cooperate. As soon as the voice fell, a pair of golden wings spread out behind her. Then, 2 yellow, 2 purple, 4 black, 8 soul rings rose from her feet and surrounded her body. The pressure from the Soul Douluo and the Angel Martial Spirit immediately swept towards Su Chen. Under this pressure, Su Chen subconsciously took a half step back. At the same time, the Martial Spirit was released uncontrollably to resist the pressure from Jinriksu for him. Chapter 297 Shadow Flash. Compared with the 8 soul rings surrounding Jinriksu, the 4 soul rings on Su Chen, 2 yellow and 2 purple, looked rather shabby. Jinriksu curled her lips with some disdain, looked at Su Chen and said, I really don't know how you, with your talent and cultivation, could have caught his eye and received his invitation. Su Chen mobilized all his soul power to resist the pressure from Jinriksu, and did not respond to her words. Then Jinriksu stood up, and the table in front of her turned into powder under the pressure from her, and scattered in the room. She said, it seems that you really don't plan to cooperate. Su Chen still did not respond. Then Jinriksu snorted coldly, and an angel holy sword condensed by golden energy appeared in her hand. If you don't accept the toast, you will be punished by the wine. However, Su Chen spoke before she took action. He said, I'm not cooperating because the time is up. Jinriksu was stunned, and then a bad premonition came to her mind. What do you mean? Su Chen smiled again, literally. Jinriksu immediately raised her sword and rushed towards Su Chen. However, the moment she raised her foot, Su Chen's 4th soul ring lit up. So in his eyes, everything slowed down. The 4th soul ring from the Nether Wolf 2 years ago. The 4th soul skill given to him, Shadow Flash. Su Chen turned back and made a starting posture, looking back at Jinriksu who kept raising her leg. The next moment, the whole person turned into purple-black light and disappeared on the spot. When he appeared again, he had come to a corner on the east side of the Douluo Palace. He just stretched out his hand and slapped the wall, and then his figure turned into purple-black light again and dissipated on the spot. This time, he appeared somewhere on the west side of the Douluo Palace and stepped on the wall. As his figure flipped in the air, He turned into purple-black light and dissipated, and then appeared in the south of the Douluo Palace. In this way, Su Chen hit all the key positions in the Douluo Palace with a palm or a kick, and finally returned to the room at the beginning. He looked up at Jinring Su, who was still raising her foot, smiled lightly, and then merged into the shadow under his feet and disappeared completely. At this time, Jinring Su rushed to the place where Su Chen had stood before, but now there was no one there. With Jinring Su's cultivation, it would only take a blink of an eye for her to get in front of Su Chen and attack him in such a short distance. But in this time that was shorter than a moment, at the moment when Jinring Su just raised her leg and made the posture of running forward, her brain was completely unable to recognize such a short time. Su Chen almost ran through the entire Douluo Palace, and successfully escaped under the nose of a Soul Douluo. Jinring Su held the angel sword and stood there with a sullen look. Once again, she lost to Tang Liu. And this was when Tang Liu was not around. She still lost to Tang Liu's long-range plan. I'm afraid that Su Chen was captured by her because Tang Liu had already instructed him to do so. After all, Su Yu and Su Chen's martial spirits perfectly inherited the characteristics of Shadow Douluo's shadow martial spirit. If Shadow Douluo wanted to run, even her grandfather Jin Daoliu might not be able to stop him. So, if Su Yu could run away, why couldn't Su Chen? She should have thought of this from the beginning. And why was Su Chen willing to be taken to the Douluo Palace? I'm afraid it was because Tang Liu's target was her Douluo Palace. She took back her spirit, walked out with a frosty face, and then ordered, "Gather people immediately and search the Douluo hall from top to bottom. Check every place, whether it is the ceiling or the floor, carefully, find all suspicious places, and report to me." Looking at the extremely cold Saint, the people in the spirit hall did not dare to have any objections. After responding timidly, they immediately turned around and left, dispersing to various places in the huge Douluo hall and searching according to Jinring Su's requirements. Jinring Su herself walked outside the Douluo hall and looked at the spirit city in the distance below, as well as the magnificent Pope's palace in the spirit city. She clenched her fists tightly. Is it really necessary to find that woman to cooperate in order to win? Thousands of miles away from the spirit city, a ray of light and a shadow turned into a human figure respectively. It was Su Yu and Su Chen. After reappearing, both of them could no longer hold on, and sat on the ground in embarrassment, gasping for breath. Su Yu said with lingering fear, "I was scared to death, luckily it succeeded. Fortunately, you have a high level of proficiency in your fourth soul skill, otherwise you really can't mark so many places at once." Su Chen simply asked, "What about you? When you were helping me determine the location, were you discovered by the peerless Douluo?" Su Yu said unhappily, "Really? Even when I was helping you determine the location, I felt that I was locked on by the peerless Douluo several times. Fortunately, he didn't really find me, but I was still almost scared to death. He is a peerless Douluo. What should we do if he is really alarmed by us?" Su Chen comforted her, but his tone was still light. "Don't worry, Captain Tang will teleport us away when we are in danger." Su Yu breathed a sigh of relief. "That's right. Captain Tang and the others are not on the Douluo continent now. Even if the peerless Douluo is very strong, he can't cross the distance between the two continents and catch us in a short time." Su Chen then said, "Okay, you should quickly recover your soul power. I will protect you first." Su Yu nodded, but did not immediately start practicing to restore soul power. Instead, she looked at Su Chen and said, "We have completed the assessment, right?" Su Chen was stunned for a moment, and a smile appeared on his indifferent face. He said nothing, but just nodded. But the joy in his eyes showed that he was very restless. Demon Forest. The border area of the core area. After struggling for a long time, Mu Jing chose to say to Yulingling and Lu Qifang behind her, "Let's not go any deeper, but move horizontally instead. The core area must be more dangerous. If one of us three has a martial soul avatar, it will be safer inside. So, let's find a seventh soul ring that suits me first, and wait for me to merge it, and then continue to move forward. After all, my comprehensive ability is stronger than all of you." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Sea God Island. Yulingling was silent for a while, and said, "In that case, Then I will also fuse my 7th soul ring first." Then she looked at Lu Qiufeng on the side. "When the time comes, we will go in together, and there should be a certain chance that I can help you obtain a 100,000 a year level 7th soul ring." However, Lu Qiufeng denied their ideas without even thinking about it, and said, "Have you forgotten that my Jiufen can increase the age of my soul rings by devouring vitality? Therefore, the first soul saint among the 3 of us should be me. In terms of actual combat power, I am no worse than you, Mu Jing, and my attack power is higher. After I have a martial soul avatar, with your control, I can also cause greater damage to the 100,000 year soul beasts that I may encounter. No matter how you look at it, I am more suitable than you." Just like stall owner Tang said before, the age of the soul ring is not a problem for me. Mu Jing did not speak. Yi Lingling still insisted, "I'd better get my 7th soul ring by the way. I'm just an auxiliary soul master, and my physical fitness can't compare with you combat soul masters. The 7th soul ring absorbs the 100,000 year level. It's really too much for me. I'm sure I can't bear it." Mu Jing still didn't express her opinion. So Lu Qiufeng said, "Okay, let's start moving horizontally now and find soul beasts suitable for me and Lingling. After we break through the soul saint, we will continue to go deep into the evil demon forest." Mu Jing nodded and took the lead. Yi Lingling followed her, and then Lu Qiufeng. Tang Liu was still nowhere to be seen. Sea God Island. The Shrek 7 devils have been here for more than a year. Tang San also raised his soul power to level 70 during this year, and obtained a God-given soul ring here. A 100,000 year soul ring. His first 100,000 year soul ring. In addition to him, the other 6 members of the Shrek 7 devils also improved to varying degrees. After all, this is the place where the sea god is enshrined. With the sea god divine test, the average cultivation of the 7 people is above Soul Emperor, but the speed of soul power improvement has not slowed down at all because of the improvement of cultivation, and has maintained a high-speed improvement process. In the more than 1 year of living in the Sea God Island, the Shrek 7 devils not only got to know many sea soul beasts, but also got to know the worshippers on this Sea God Island. When he was not taking the divine test, Tang San would take Xiao Wu around this island to appreciate the blue ocean scenery. Of course, you can also have a love affair by the way. Then, one day, they met a man and a woman who seemed to be a couple on a beach. The man was very handsome and tall, and the woman had long blue hair like the sea, and her face was impeccable. When Tang San and Xiao Wu saw them, they were leaning against each other, sitting on a reef on the shore, watching the sunset gradually sink below the sea. That picture has a sense of the beauty of old age. Even though the man and woman looked very young. Perhaps Tang San and Xiao Wu had been looking at them for too long, so the man and woman turned their heads and smiled at them. At this time, Tang San and Xiao Wu realized that the stunning woman with long blue hair like the ocean was holding the arm of the man next to her. After seeing the two, the tall man waved at them and said with a hearty smile, "Young man, young lady. Can you come over?" Tang San and Xiao Wu looked at each other, but still walked over and simply saluted the two. Tang San looked at the two and asked with some doubt, "Are you two seniors from this Sea God Island?" The man laughed, hugged the woman next to him, and then said, "I am only staying on the Sea God Island temporarily, but my wife is from this Sea God Island." Hearing this, the woman's face couldn't help but blush, but she didn't refute it out loud, just leaned on the man's broad arms like a little bird. The man continued, "However, after we finish these things, my wife and I will go back and not stay on this boring island anymore. When the time comes, I will take her back home first to meet my great-grandson, and then take her to travel around the mainland. In short, I will make up for all the time I owed her in the past." Tang Liu couldn't help but glance at Xiao Wu beside him, then looked at the man and said with a serious blessing, "I wish you two seniors a long and happy life." The man looked at Tang San with a smile, "Then I will lend you my good wishes." He then stretched out his hand and patted Tang San on the shoulder, saying, "On this Sea God Island, you still have to keep working hard, and don't embarrass us." Although Tang San was a little confused, he nodded in accordance with the principle of respecting his elders, and said, "Don't worry, senior, I will work hard." The man laughed twice. "Okay, then." He looked at Xiao Wu beside Tang San and said jokingly, "Is this your female companion, young man?" Tang San smiled, nodded and said, "She is my girlfriend. Her name is Xiao Wu." Xiao Wu blushed. "Hello, two seniors." The man smiled. "What a perfect match. Not bad, not bad." The woman also sat up straight. Her expression became more dignified. She looked at Xiao Wu with a smile, and nodded gently. The man then waved his hand. Alice, I'm old, I just like to chat with people. Don't mind me, if you have anything important to do, just go and do it, we won't waste your time. Tang San smiled. You two seniors look very young. The man smiled and said, you are already an old couple, why are you still young? Okay, go ahead. Tang San then smiled and said goodbye. Okay, then you two seniors, we'll be leaving first. Yeah, okay. After watching Tang San and Xiao Wu go away, the woman approached the man's arms again, looked at Tang San's back in the distance, and said, is he your great-great-grandson? He looks like he's only 21 or 22 years old, but I didn't expect he's already a soul saint. This talent is even stronger than you were back then, the man said somewhat proudly. Well, after all, he's the bloodline of our Haitian sect, the woman asked curiously. By the way, didn't you say you have a little great-grandson and you're going to take me to meet him? Yes, my little great-grandson has better talent. He broke through to Soul Saint when he was 14. I wonder where he left us 3 former prides behind. Ha ha ha, the woman was a little surprised. 14 years old? That's too young. Could it be that he also obtained some inheritance from the gods, debt-free, so cool? Chapter 299. Is it 100,000 years? The man smiled and said, I have always been curious about this, because I have not felt any power of gods in my little great-grandson. Perhaps, there are really people with extraordinary talents in this world. The woman nodded gently. Then maybe, a new god will soon appear in our world, the man said and then said, maybe. There is one thing that the man did not tell the woman. Although his little great-grandson did not have any aura of gods, but there was an aura that seemed to be higher than that of gods. He can be said to be the strongest person in the world. Although he failed in the Shura God test, his vision was still raised to a level that the world could not imagine. So he could see that the aura of his little great-grandson was stronger than that of Shura God. Although the days in the demon forest were just rushing on the road day after day, killing the soul beasts that actively attacked, and looking for the right soul beasts, even if such repetition was very monotonous, it still made every day very fulfilling and passed very quickly. It seemed that in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. In this month, Mu Jing, Yi Lingling and Lu Qifang found a fairy grass with a cultivation level of about 54,000 years. This kind of plant-based soul beast with natural spiritual connection is very rare. It has almost no attack ability, but it has extremely high nutrients. The king of 10,000 demons was originally just an ordinary demon tree, but with the help of a 1,000-year-old fairy grass, it evolved to a cultivation level of 500,000 years in the future. This kind of plant-based soul beast is undoubtedly very suitable for Yi Lingling. However, they did not expect that they could actually encounter a fairy grass of 10,000 years in this evil demon forest, which has reached the level of natural treasures. After all, fairy grass at this level will definitely become the object of desire of soul beasts. No matter what kind of soul beast it is, as long as it eats the fairy grass of 10,000 years, it will undoubtedly benefit itself greatly. In this evil demon forest where soul beasts are generally aggressive, this fairy grass of more than 50,000 years has survived extremely fortunately. No wonder they were so surprised. Even Tang Liu was reluctant to let the 3 of them kill such a rare fairy grass. Instead, he chose to borrow a soul ring from the fairy grass that just matched the maximum limit that Yi Lingling's body could bear at present, and let her absorb it. Then, he personally went to transplant the fairy grass into the yin-yang eye of ice and fire. After that, he returned to Mu Jing and the other 2, and waited for Yi Lingling to successfully absorb the soul ring before he entered the invisible state again and hid not far from the 3. So far, among the few people, except Tang Liu, the first soul birthday was born. After possessing the martial soul body, the 9-hearted begonia has a higher healing ability. Although the few people have not tried it yet, they can intuitively feel that the healing power is much stronger than before. Afterwards, the 3 of them moved horizontally along the edge of the core area of the demon forest according to the original plan, and began to look for a suitable soul beast for Lu Qifang. 3 days later, they found a soul beast with a cultivation level of about 60,000 years, which was suitable for Lu Qifang. Mu Jing assisted Lu Qifang in successfully killing it. Needless to say, Mu Jing and Yi Lingling immediately took out a milk bottle, and helped Lu Qifang to protect the law while recovering his soul power. An hour later, Lu Qifang successfully absorbed his 7th soul ring and entered the soul saint level. He stood up, looked at Mu Jing, and said, "Let's go in now. This time I will lead the way, and you will be responsible for the rear. In this way, if you really encounter a soul beast of 100,000 years, its first target of attack will also be me, and you will have time to react and respond. Mu Jing and Yilingling had no objection. After fully recovering their soul power, the three of them followed the new formation and officially entered the core area of the demon forest. After entering the core area, the three of them became completely nervous and did not dare to move forward too fast. They were always on edge. In addition to being wary of the evil eye mental illusion that may appear at any time, they must also be careful of attacks from other soul beasts. In any soul beast forest, the core area is extremely dangerous. If you fight soul beasts here, you may attract some more powerful soul beasts if you are not careful. Therefore, if you must fight in the core circle, you must ensure a quick battle, otherwise you may face the scene of being besieged by several powerful soul beasts. Naturally, the three of them no longer acted like they did outside the core area, and started fighting directly when they encountered soul beasts. Instead, they carefully avoided the traces of soul beasts that could not be their targets and avoided unnecessary battles as much as possible. They also tried to cover their whereabouts as much as possible, and at the same time avoided making a lot of noise to prevent being noticed by soul beasts. In this way, they rarely encountered battles. Only when some soul beasts met them at the front gate would they choose to fight. In this way, they went deep into the core circle for about 1,000 meters, and then changed to horizontal movement under Tang Liu's warning. In this way, the frequency of their encounters with soul beasts increased a lot, and more often it was two soul beasts fighting, and they were passively involved. The soul beasts in the core circle have no cultivation level lower than 30,000 years. Most of the soul beasts encountered by the three people are in the range of 50,000 to 80,000 years. With Yilingling's Soul Saint level 9 Heart Begonia healing ability, Lu Qiufang's attack power that has also entered the Soul Saint level, and Mu Jing's ability to control the situation, even if they encounter two soul beasts of about 60,000 years at the same time, the three people can solve the problem in a very short time. If they encounter a soul beast of about 80,000 years, they will have to spend some effort to kill it. Fortunately, this place is not deep in the core area of the demon forest, so the three people have not encountered soul beasts of about 90,000 years for the time being. Killing a soul beast of 80,000 years will almost consume all their soul power, so the three people dare not imagine what will happen if they encounter a soul beast of 90,000 years or even 100,000 years. If it is a soul beast of 90,000 years, they should be able to kill it if they try their best. But if it is a soul beast of 100,000 years, perhaps, even if they fight hard, they may not win. We stayed in the core area of the demonic forest for about 5 days, but the three of us encountered two soul beasts of about 80,000 years. One time, it was alone, and the other time, there was another soul beast of about 60,000 years. I am not on the right state to write today. Maybe it is because I want to write a summary again. Anyway, don't wait for me today. Even if I want to post it, it will probably be very late. Early to bed and early to rise is good for your health. Staying up late will hurt your body. Doghead. Chapter 306th Soul Skill. However, the time they encountered an 80,000-year soul beast alone was more thrilling than the time they encountered an 80,000-year soul beast and a 60,000-year soul beast at the same time. Because the 80,000-year soul beast they encountered alone had a more noble bloodline. Just like a 10,000-year-old titan ape can be comparable to an ordinary 100,000-year soul beast. The 80,000-year soul beast that the three encountered gave them the same sense as a 100,000-year soul beast. Even though none of the three had actually seen a 100,000-year soul beast, and had never truly felt the breath and pressure of a 100,000-year soul beast. However, after encountering these two 80,000-year soul beasts, the three never encountered a soul beast with a cultivation level of more than 60,000 years. In this way, in the core circle of this extremely dangerous evil demon forest, they fought soul beasts almost non-stop for half a month. High-intensity combat is also a way to squeeze potential and quickly improve strength. Even though Lu Qiufang and Yilingling have already entered the Soul Saint level, their soul power has also rapidly increased by 2 to 3 levels after fighting for half a month. Of course, in the past half month, the three still haven't encountered a soul beast with a cultivation level of more than 60,000 years, and the frequency of encountering soul beasts is not high. In addition, there are sufficient milk bottles to provide soul power supply, so they can persist. However, The good luck of the three seems to end here. Because a powerful soul beast with a cultivation level of about 90,000 years took the initiative to find them. It was a swallowing dragon. It is known as a mini Tyrannosaurus rex. A sub-dragon, a ground dragon. It has a very domineering innate soul skill, swallowing the world, which can swallow all the energy within a certain range and turn it into its own energy. The swallowing dragon is a killer by nature, so this battle is inevitable. But for the swallowing dragon's innate soul skill, the three really have no good way to deal with it. Judging from the cultivation level, the innate soul skill of this 90,000-year-old swallowing dragon definitely covers a wide range, and it is unrealistic for them to escape in a short time. Therefore, the moment they collided with the swallowing dragon, the three people chose to retreat quickly and distance themselves from the swallowing dragon. Seeing this, the swallowing dragon immediately caught up without any hesitation. Although its size is not as large as its close relative Tyrannosaurus rex, its speed is extremely fast. Even though the three of them have already activated the soul guide propulsion device, the devouring dragon is still following closely. Seeing this, the three of them also realized that it was impossible to escape, so they released their martial spirits one after another and then launched long-range attacks on the devouring dragon. Of course, the main attacker was Mu Jing, because Lu Qiufeng was mainly good at close combat. Even if he could throw Qiufeng out, he only looked at the hard and smooth scales on the devouring dragon and knew that his attack would be difficult to work. In order to break the scales defense of this 90,000-year-old devouring dragon, Lu Qiufeng had to use most of his soul skills at the same time. In this case, the consumption of soul power is undoubtedly huge, not to mention that he is still using the soul guide propulsion device. So it is a bit of a loss. Naturally, Mu Jing, who has the soul control skill, can play a big role in this situation. Not to mention completely controlling the devouring dragon, but at least it can slow down the speed of the devouring dragon. This is exactly the case in the live broadcast. As soon as the soul rings appeared, Mu Jing's first and second soul rings flash alternately. 3,000 plum rains could slow down the devouring dragon's forward movement for 1 second, and the plum blossoms like flowing fire could also restrain the devouring dragon for about half a second. Since they were the first and second soul skills, the soul power consumed was not much, and she was able to support and use them all the time. As for the following soul skills, either they made too much noise and might attract other soul beasts, or they were not strong enough to cause damage to the devouring dragon, so Mu Jing did not use them. Moreover, most of the following soul skills required a certain amount of preparation time, while 3,000 plum rains and plum blossoms like flowing fire could be used instantly, which was undoubtedly more cost-effective for the current situation. However, just delaying time like this was not a solution, because the soul power of the three of them was constantly consumed due to the continuous use of the soul guide thrusters. On the other hand, the devouring dragon was just running on its own strength. In terms of physical strength, the three humans were definitely not as good as the devouring dragon, with a trace of golden dragon blood. So, the three of them looked at each other and tacitly chose to act separately. Mu Jing protected Yi Lingling and continued to retreat, while Lu Qiufeng immediately ran to the side of the devouring dragon. While Mu Jing continued to release 1 or 2 soul skills on the devouring dragon, Yi Lingling's soul power light appeared in many places. Then, dark gun barrels appeared from her arms, shoulders, waist and other places, and then, soul power light condensed in those gun barrels, and the next moment, they all shot towards the devouring dragon's head. These soul guide cannons are soul guide weapons that can emit beams with certain control effects such as binding, slowing, paralysis, and burning, and there are only 2 with offensive power, 1 bursting cannon and 1 fragmentation cannon. The beams of these 2 soul guide cannons were fired by Yi Lingling at the eyes of the devouring dragon. The devouring dragon, sensing the danger, stopped immediately, and before the 2 soul guide rays heading towards the eyes arrived, it turned its head away, so the 2 soul guide rays fell on its torso. These 2 soul guide cannons are level 7 soul guides, and their power cannot be underestimated. The soul beams with bursting and splitting energy directly blasted 2 small holes on the devouring dragon's trunk. The scales around the holes rolled back and bursts of green smoke came out. The devouring dragon also let out a miserable howl. After all, the effects of bursting and splitting acted on the body at the same time, and the pain brought was imaginable. At this time, other soul beams with control effects also fell on the devouring dragon, causing a control effect on it for about 3 seconds. During these 3 seconds, The devouring dragon's body could only freeze in place and could not move. At this time, Mu Jing's first, second, and sixth third soul rings also lit up at the same time. 3,000 plum rains fell, plum blossoms bloomed like flowing fire, 2 major control soul skills fell on the devouring dragon. And the last one, the soul skill of the sixth soul ring that was as black as ink. The shadow of the plum blossoms was rustling. This is also a control soul skill. One comes from a dark attribute soul beast that has cultivated for more than 30,000 years. Compared to the hard control of 3,000 plum rains and plum blossoms like flowing fire, the control of this plum shadow remnant is more reflected in the weakening aspect. Its effect is to weaken all the defenses of the designated target, and will cause a slow corrosion effect on the target, which can gradually consume the target's soul power. At the same time, under the effect of this soul skill, the target will also feel a sense of fear and deterrence, which will greatly reduce the combat power. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.